Chapter 1003. While the reporters were dumbfounded and too scared to follow them, Yunjian was already led away by Temptress through the back door of the racetrack. Haha, those damn reporters kept pestering you, Sister Jian. They're usually pestering me, but Sister Jian, your gaze just now must have scared them to death. Just as Temptress led Yunjian out of the racetrack's back door and came to a flat area illuminated only by a single light, she guffawed loudly. This did not match Temptress's seductive image at all. Temptress was seductive, but her seductive image was only shown to outsiders. She was never strict with Yunjian. Yunjian gave a curt nod, but it was obvious from the slight curvature that she was replying to Temptress. Yunjian had always been one to speak her mind. Honestly, it was a headache for her to face the reporters. It was fine if she did not say anything, but once she did, the reporters would back off. Just as Yunjian and Temptress arrived at the racetrack's entrance, a male voice rang out. They were at the racetrack's entrance, and the loud cheers from the spectator stands could be heard from here. It could be seen that another exciting racing performance was about to begin. It was not as intense as Yunjian and Temptress race, but the atmosphere on the spectator stands was already boiling. In comparison, the racetrack's entrance seemed a little lonely. There was only one spot of light that shone down, making it feel a little desolate. In spite of it, Yunjian did not find it desolate. She tilted her head slightly toward the source of the voice and saw Guxian waving toward them. There were a few buddies from Guxian with him as well. Dan Tianxing was the leader. It was almost Dan Tianxing's race, but he seemed to be more excited to see Yunjian than the race. When Yunjian heard Guxian's voice, she stopped in her tracks. When Temptress saw Yunjian stop, she stopped as well. Phew, Yunjian. Dan Tianxing was still panting when he ran over. He took a deep breath to adjust his emotions. Yunjian, are you really SS? Dan Tianxing finally asked the question that Guxian and the rest wanted to ask. Just as he asked the question, however, Dan Tianxing paused and said, No, I don't mean anything else. It's because I admire Temptress and SS very much, so. I am, Yunjian answered naturally. Yunjian did not answer whether she was SS or not when she was interviewed. Dan Tianxing and the others chased after her was to ask for an answer. Yes or no. Although Dan Tianxing and the rest were prepared, they were still stunned at this moment. Guxian put his arm around Dan Tianxing's shoulder naturally and said in a boastful manner, Of course, I finally know why Master Corentin calls Sister S. And why Master Corentin wants Sister to be his disciple. What? Master Corentin? Little Xian, are you talking about the world's most famous top-notch mechanic, Master Corentin? Master Corentin wants to be Yunjian's disciple? Chapter 1004. Corentin was also well known in the racing circle. What was that supposed to mean? Corentin did not race, but why was he so famous in the racing circle? It was because Corentin's modified racing car was the best in the world. Any racer would have a grand goal or wish, which was to get a sports car modified by Master Corentin. Therefore, Corentin was famous in the racing circle. Moreover, Corentin had a quirk that everyone in the industry knew. It was impossible to get a sports car modified by Master Corentin even if you had the money. It also depended on his mood. If he was in a bad mood or did not like you, he would not modify you even if it cost him his life. This was mentioned before. Of course, the reason Corentin could be so arrogant was because he had his own skills. He had the capital to be so arrogant and brash. Therefore, when they heard that someone like him was begging to be Yunjian's disciple, Shan Tianxing and the rest were shocked and fearful. That old man Corentin is still begging to be Sister Jian's disciple? To Shan Tianxing and the rest, Corentin's begging to be Yunjian's disciple was terrifying, but alluring demon was only impressed by his perseverance. As for Corentin wanting to be Yunjian's disciple, it was just a normal thing. Sister Jian, that old man still hasn't given up. Are you going to take him in? Alluring demon crossed her arms lazily and looked at Yunjian with a grin, her eyes twinkling with a peculiar glint. No, Yunjian retorted. Shan Tianxing and the rest shuddered again when they heard Yunjian's straightforward rejection. That was the internationally renowned mechanic, Master Corentin. If it were any of Dan Tianxing's men, they would be very satisfied if Master Corentin were to meet them, let alone acknowledge them as his master. What about Yunjian? Why? Yunjian, why didn't you take Master Corentin in? If Yunjian took Master Corentin as her disciple, would it not be a piece of cake for him to modify a sports car? Dan Tianxing asked in confusion. Because. Yunjian tilted her head and looked at Dan Tianxing. She narrowed her eyes slightly, and there was a beautiful luster in her eyes that no one could underestimate. Because he's not qualified. In the next second, Yun Jian's soft voice rang out. When this voice rang out, Dan Tianxing and the others were completely stunned. What did he mean by Master Corentin wasn't qualified? If even Master Corentin wasn't qualified, then who else in the world was? However, after Yun Jian finished speaking, she smiled faintly, turned sideways and took a step forward. Little Xian, your sister is an SS, the king of the racing circle. That's true, but Master Corentin's strength isn't just for show. For her to speak of Master Corentin like that, isn't it a little? Dan Tianxing said hesitantly. Little brother, you're really flattering that old man Corentin. He's nothing to Sister Jian. Temptress winked at Dan Tianxing and the others before she followed Yun Jian with a chuckle. What Temptress said surprised Dan Tianxing and the others. That was not the end of it. When Gu Xian heard that, he could not help stepping up to tell his buddy, Dan Tianxing. Oh, Tianxing, I used to think that Master Corentin was the best mechanic in the world, but ever since I drove the Ferrari sports car my sister modified, the Ferrari sports car my sister modified is twice as fast as Master Corentin's modified sports car. Master Corentin's modified sports car was originally twice as fast as a regular sports car. That was already the limit. However, a mechanic who could double the speed of Master Corentin's modified sports car, there was probably no one else in the world who could do that. Chapter 1005. While Dan Tianxing and the others were still in shock, Gu Xian had already caught up with Yun Jian and told her that he had to return to the venue to watch Dan Tianxing's race. He asked Yun Jian if she wanted to go back with him. Yun Jian had just caused such a big commotion. Of course, it was not suitable for her to go back now. Thus, Yun Jian curved her red lips and smiled faintly. I won't go. Give me a call after you finish watching the race tonight. With that, Yun Jian patted her trouser pocket gently and smiled. She placed her phone in her trouser pocket. Okay. Gu Xian nodded. Dan Tianxing's race was not over yet. As a brother he had to be there. Otherwise he would be too unbrotherly. After Yun Jian finished talking to Gu Xian, she left with Demonis. Yun Jian came to Maryland and Country M to check on the Rongyao Company's recent situation. Coincidentally, Gu Xian could not leave tonight, so Yun Jian went to Rongyao Company with Demonis. Rongyao Company was located in the largest downtown area in Maryland. It occupied a vast area and was the tallest high-rise building in Maryland. It was already nighttime and almost dawn. However, the downtown area in Maryland was the busiest area in the vicinity. Even now it was still crowded. There were still people working overtime in Rongyao Company. When Demonis followed Yun Jian into the Rongyao Company, the employees who were working overtime looked at Yun Jian with surprise and suspicion. The Demonis was the CEO of the Rong and Yao Company. This was something that everyone in the company knew. But what was going on now? How could the CEO of their company single-handedly support Rongyao Company from an unknown company to the current CEO of one of the top 10 international corporations in the world? And she was actually following behind a young girl who looked less than 18 years old? What was going on? However, before the people present could think too much, the siren followed Yun Jian and walked past the group of workers who were still working overtime. Good evening, CEO. When the Demonis passed by them, the group of employees greeted her politely. However, when they saw Yun Jian, they all opened their mouths but didn't know how to address her. It wasn't until Yun Jian and the Demonis were far away that the group of staff members began to chatter endlessly. Who is that girl? Why does it seem like our company's CEO is following behind her? It's probably a coincidence. Who do you think our CEO is? The CEO probably just happened to be following that young girl. The few female staff members who were standing at the same spot were very jealous of Yun Jian for being able to make the Demonis follow behind her. It was as if she was ordering her own subordinates. People's jealousy was very scary, so these female staff members began to gossip again. Just as they reached this part of their conversation, they were either hinting or comforting themselves that it was just a coincidence that Demonis was following Yun Jian. However, they heard Demonis speaking to Yun Jian from afar. Sister Jian, the company's going downhill right now because of Hagi Company's suppression. The rest of the words did not register in the female staff members who stood at the same spot. However, the few female staff members present heard the two words. Sister Jian? The CEO of Rongyao Company was calling the girl, sister? What did this mean? Did it mean that the girl's status was higher than Demonis? Chapter 1006. Suddenly thinking of this, several female staff members suddenly covered their mouths and looked at Yun Jian's fading figure in disbelief. Oh my god, could she be the legendary founder of the Rongyao Company, the chairman of the Rongyao Company? Since the establishment of the Rongyao Company, the chairman of the Rongyao Company had never shown his face. So when they heard Demonis call Yun Jian's sister, the group of female staff members guessed it. The expression of the people present could not be described with the word frightened. They seemed to have seen the founder of the Rongyao company, the legendary chairman. For a moment, the group of female staff members even forgot that they were secretly criticizing Yun Jian and despising Yun Jian in their hearts. At this moment, Yun Jian and Demonis had already taken the elevator to the office on the 25th floor. The 25th floor was where the offices of all the executives of the Rongyao company were located. Demonis' office was also on the 25th floor. As soon as they came out of the elevator, Demonis took Yun Jian directly to her office. After hearing Demonis say that the company's development was going downhill recently, Yun Jian was neither happy nor worried. She asked faintly, "Hagi Company?" Yes, Hagi Company is also one of the top 10 international companies, but Hagi Company's international status is slightly higher than our Rongyao company. The reason is because Hagi Company is a company passed down from ancient times. After thousands of years of business development, its foundation is deeply rooted. Recently, the chairman of Hagi Company has been suppressing us, so the company's sales have been greatly reduced recently. Demonis was not vague at all when talking about serious matters. She explained to Yun Jian word by word. However, just as she said this, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Because at this moment, Yun Jian and Demonis had already arrived at the door of Demonis' office. Yun Jian, on the other hand, saw two figures in a luring demon's office. When Demonis saw the two figures, one standing and one sitting in her office, she frowned deeply. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly. Under normal circumstances, Rongyao Company had guards at the door, so outsiders could not enter. However, it was almost midnight now and basically everyone in the company had gotten off work, except for some people who were still working overtime. Therefore, there were no guards outside the door and there were still people in the company. The door was open, so it was not strange that someone could enter. However, the strange thing was that this person actually found Demonis' office. "Mayor?" Demonis frowned and said in astonishment. Once Yun Jian heard a luring witch's shout, she knew who the two people in the office, one standing and one sitting, were. The man standing was Mayor, the chairman of Hagi Company. The woman sitting on the sofa with her legs crossed was Mel's sister, Maggie. Hagi Company was the company that had been suppressing Rongyao Company recently. At least now that Rongyao Company was in Demonis' hands, she could not compete with Hagi Company. "Haha, my little Demonis, I finally caught you." Mayor glanced at Yun Jian, then turned to look at Demonis and said generously, "What are you doing here? Aren't you afraid that I will kill you?" Demonis glared at Mayor fiercely. In fact, based on the current situation, Demonis, as the chairman of Rongyao Company, was being suppressed by Hagi Company. Mayor was Demonis' strongest opponent. However, Mayor was amused and laughed. His handsome face added a trace of the CEO's dignified demeanor. "Of course we are here to laugh at you." Mayanai raised her head arrogantly and looked at Demonis. Mayanai glanced at Demonis, then glanced at Yun Jian. Seeing that Yun Jian was wearing clothes from a street stall, she laughed for a while, then mocked her. Chapter 1007. Yun Jian did not plan to speak, but she merely raised a brow when the topic shifted to her. Hagi Company was one of the top 10 international corporations and its international status was incomparable to ordinary companies. In fact, Hagi Company and Rongyao Company existed side by side. The only difference was that Rongyao Company had only risen in recent years. Hagi Company, on the other hand, was an industry that had been passed down for generations. In comparison, Hagi Company's international status was perhaps a few levels higher than Rongyao Company's. Hagi Company was considered a strong competitor to Rongyao Company. As for Mayor and Mayanai, they were siblings and Mayor was the CEO of Hagi Company, holding 20% of the company's shares. He could be considered one of the biggest shareholders of the company. Yun Jian had planned to see why Mayor and Mayanai were here, but she did not expect Mayanai to target her. She narrowed her eyes and stared straight ahead. Mayanai had thought of teasing Yun Jian when she saw her standing quietly on the side, especially since Hagi Company and Rongyao Company's CEO, Temptress, were arch-enemies. Looking at Yun Jian's attire, Mayanai had thought of mocking her, which was why she had mocked Yun Jian so viciously. Just as she finished mocking Yun Jian, Mayanai's gaze was fixed on Temptress. To Mayanai, Yun Jian was probably just an insignificant employee in the company, perhaps a poor beggar who came out of nowhere. Mayanai's purpose of belittling Yun Jian was to suppress Temptress in terms of aura. It was not that she had seen Yun Jian. In Mayanai's eyes, Yun Jian was just a stepping stone for her to suppress Temptress. Before Yun Jian could get angry, Temptress was already fuming when she heard what Mai and I said. How dare she call Sister Jian a poor beggar? If Sister Jian was poor, would there be any rich people in the world? You're not welcome here. Get lost. Scram as far as you can. Although the demoness usually looked seductive, she was very strong when she was fierce. At this moment, the demoness was walking toward Mare and Mai and I in a pair of pointy stilettos. She picked up a mop and was about to chase them away. She looked like a shrew. Oh, my little demoness, don't be like this. Nier is still young and doesn't know any better. If she said something she shouldn't have, don't lower yourself to her level. Mare turned to the side and grabbed the mop that Siren swung at him. Brother. How dare she enter Rongyao Company with that outfit? Even if Rongyao Company is not as good as our Haji, Rongyao Company is still one of the top 10 multinational companies in the world. Even such a person can come in. The threshold of your Rongyao Company is too low. Mai and I placed her hand softly on her cheek. Even her brother, Mare, was ashamed to hear her scornful look. Temptress was even more furious when she heard that. She yanked the mop back from Mare's hand and was about to fling it at Mai and I. It was then that Yun Jian's voice rang. What does it have to do with you whether the threshold of our Rongyao Company is high or not? I think a beggar on the street is better than a certain woman who sprays Dior cologne all over. A woman who sprays Dior cologne all over? Mai and I froze. Was she not referring to herself? Chapter 1008. Mare and Mai and I didn't even notice the words Rongyao Company. Yun Jian wasn't complaining about the Dior perfume. She was cursing Mai and I in a roundabout way, saying that she was worse than a beggar on the street. In fact, most women knew how to spray perfume. For example, seductive women also sprayed perfume. There were many types of perfume. Some people liked simple and elegant scents. Seductive woman, for example, sprayed a simple and elegant perfume even though she was seductive. As for Mai and I, she sprayed a very strong perfume. Of course, everyone had their own preferences. Yun Jian wasn't complaining about Mai Ni's Dior perfume. It was just that Mai and I had coincidentally sprayed Dior perfume. At the same time, everyone present could tell that Yun Jian was implying that Mai and I was worse than a beggar on the street. This was purely a scolding without any vulgarities. Moreover, Yun Jian emphasized the woman who sprayed Dior perfume. There were only 4 people present. Yun Jian and Mare didn't spray perfume. Seductive woman sprayed a faint perfume. Yun Jian could tell that it wasn't a Dior perfume with one sniff. Then there was only one person present who fit the description. That person was Mai and I. Therefore, Mai Ni's face instantly darkened after Yun Jian said that. Mai and I had been spoiled since she was young. She had always treated Yun Jian as a beggar. Now that she heard Yun Jian say that she was worse than a beggar, she exploded on the spot. What did you say? You actually said that I'm worse than a beggar. I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. Mai and I flew into a rage on the spot. She picked up a teacup from the coffee table and threw it at Yun Jian. Mai and I was a typical rich young lady. She was the young lady of one of the top 10 international corporations, Hagi Company. Therefore, she had a very delicate personality. Usually, no one would even say anything bad about her. There were only a bunch of people who flattered her. Therefore, when Mai and I heard Yun Jian belittle her to be worse than a beggar, she felt as if she had been greatly insulted. Especially when Mai and I thought that Yun Jian was a lowly person, the feeling of being despised by a lowly person made Mai and I explode instantly. Go to hell. Mai and I grabbed a teacup and threw it at Yun Jian. Not even Mare was able to react to this sudden turn of events. However, when Mare turned to the side to stop his sister, Mai Ni's teacup had already been thrown viciously at Yun Jian. Inside the teacup there was also a bowl of cool tea water. And Mare's expression suddenly changed, but it was too late for him to stop her. The teacup that was filled with cooling tea leaves had already spun in the air and was about to splash on Yun Jian when the cold tea leaves splashed onto her. Alluring Demon's gaze dimmed, but she did not do anything else because she knew Sister Jian's ability. In spite of it, Mare's heart clenched when he saw the scene. He could feel that Alluring Demon cared a lot about Yun Jian and he did not come here to go against Alluring Demon. Instead, if the tea had splashed on Yun Jian and the teacup had smashed on her as well, she would not have been able to escape. Would it not be the end of him and Alluring Demon then? Just as he thought about it, Mare saw a horrifying scene. Mai and I who stood beside Mare saw it as well. With a bang, Yun Jian suddenly took a step forward and spun the teacup in the air for a few seconds. Before the water in the teacup could pour completely, she suddenly raised her leg and kicked the teacup back at Mai and I. Before the water in the teacup could pour, Yun Jian's kick was forceful but it was just right. Both Mare and Mai and I were dumbfounded. However, just as the two of them were stunned, Mayani suddenly felt a wave of ice-cold tea soak her body, and a large teacup was smashed towards her forehead. Chapter 1009. Initially, the teacup was headed straight for Yunjian, but Yunjian's high kick just now had landed on the teacup. She kicked it back at Mayani without spilling the tea. Not only was Mayani soaked and sticky from the cold tea in the teacup when she was hit by the teacup, but more importantly, her forehead swelled up from the impact. For a rich young lady like Mayani, she had never experienced such excruciating pain since she was young. Tears were about to flow from the impact, and at the same time, a deep hatred for Yunjian welled up within her. The urge to kill Yunjian on the spot took root in Mayani. Ah! Go to hell. Mayani held her forehead that was hit by the teacup and screamed at Yunjian. Halfway through her sentence, Mayani endured the pain and told Mare in a tone that sounded like she wanted to tear Yunjian into pieces. Gidge, how dare this damn woman hit me? Kill her. I want her dead. In spite of it, Yunjian, who had retracted her leg, crossed her arms and looked at Mayani in disdain before snickering softly. Since when can a rabid dog like this enter my Rongyao company? Chase her out. Her words were directed at alluring Witch, but her gaze was blatantly on Mayani. At this moment, Mayani was like an unreasonable little beggar. She looked pathetic and comical. Sister Jian, I'll chase these two rabid dogs out right away. Alluring Witch grinned and walked to Mare with ease. Seeing Mare supporting Mayani in such a sorry state, the demonic woman sneered and provoked Mare. Don't worry. What are you waiting for? Take your sister and get out of my territory. Mare's heart skipped a beat when he saw Witch's impatient face, but he tried to explain his sister's behavior just now. Witch, don't be mad. My sister was just, Gidge. Were you helping? It hurts so much. I'm going to die from the pain. Mayani screamed and wailed. Yunjian frowned when she saw Mayani still screaming. She could not stand it anymore, so she went up and dragged Mayani out of the office by her collar. I'll help you if you don't leave. Yunjian did not care that Mayani was still struggling as she dragged her all the way from the 25th floor to the first floor. Yunjian's action frightened Mare and Mayani, but Mare was held back by Witch, so he could only watch his sister being dragged to the first floor by Yunjian. Mare was afraid of hurting Witch, who was blocking his way, so he dared not do anything. There were plenty of employees working overtime on the first floor, especially the female employees who had gossiped about Yunjian just now. When they saw Yunjian dragging something out of the elevator while holding someone's collar, they were spooked. Although the female employees suspected that Yunjian was the director of Rongyao Company, they did not have sufficient evidence. Moreover, how old was Yunjian? Therefore, this suspicion was quickly ruled out by the crowd. When they saw Yunjian dragging Mayani out of the elevator and tossing her out of the door, the employees were dumbfounded. How could this young lady be so fierce? And who was the person she was dragging? It was Mayani, the daughter of Hagi Company's director. How dare she? Chapter 1010. When the staff came back to their senses, they heard Yunjian's cold voice. Everyone at the scene was scared silly. That was the daughter of the chairman of Hagi Company. Even if she was the CEO of the Rong and Yao Company, she would have to think twice. After all, as the daughter of the chairman of Hagi Company, Mayani was undoubtedly a dragon among men. It could be said that offending Mayani was going against the whole Hagi Company. On the other hand, Rong and Yao Company was only on par with Hagi Company. In terms of international status, Rong and Yao Company was even worse than Hagi Company. So when they saw Yunjian treating Mayani like this, the staff who were working overtime in the company were stunned. Mayani was still in pain from being hit by the teacup just now. She endured the pain and looked up when she heard Yunjian's cold words. She was just about to look up at Yunjian angrily and say, "Do you dare?" when she met Yunjian's sharp, murderous gaze. Mayani trembled. The severe pain made her not dare to look at Yunjian directly. "Little siren, let's talk nicely. Don't be like this. It's easy to hurt our friendship." Mare didn't know what to do. He couldn't bear to touch Siren, but he also couldn't bear to see his sister being bullied by Yunjian. In the business world, Mare did use Hagi Company's name to suppress Rongyao Company. But Mare had to admit that he had his own selfish motives. When he first saw Siren, he fell in love with her. So not long ago he started to pursue her crazily. But Siren didn't care about him at all. Mare admitted that he fell in love with Siren at first sight. Seeing that the soft approach didn't work, he decided to use the hard approach. In the company, Mare used his position as the president of Hagi Company to suppress Siren. Of course, he didn't go too far. He didn't dare to be ruthless. He didn't want to drive his wife away and never talk to him again. But even so, Siren ignored Mare's love. So recently, Mare was most troubled by this matter. Get lost. Siren glared back at Mare. But to Mare, this stare was exceptionally refreshing and alluring. Mare even thought the stare was cute. Little witch, I'm sincere to you. Before Mare could finish his confession, my niece's scolding voice rang out. Brother. You're crazy. You actually like her. Her people bullied me like this. Are you going to avenge me or not? Mai said. Her fear of Yunjian disappeared. She glared fiercely at Yunjian and spat out even more insolent words. Just you wait, damned woman. Who do you think you are? Do you think you're the chairman of Rongyao Company? Just you wait, I'll get my dad to kill you. My Ni and Mare's father was the chairman of the Hagi Company. However, as soon as my Ni said that, she heard a female voice behind her. Sio, so you're here. This Sio was undoubtedly a shout to the demoness. Yunjian turned slightly to look at the girl who looked to be around 16 or 17 years old who had suddenly appeared. The girl was Siren's subordinate and also a member of the Kosha mercenaries. Her code name was Fox. Fox was Tanuki who delivered the Ferrari sports car to Longmen City for Yunjian back then. Fox looked like a young girl, but she looked exactly the same as Tanuki. They both had the same baby face. She was actually 25 years old. As for the Fox, he was working under the demonic woman. Fox had just caught sight of Siren when she shouted, drawing Mare and my niece's attention to her. Then she saw Yunjian. She was stunned but called out to Yunjian right in front of Mare and my Ni, Chairman, you're back? The word chairman took Mare and my Ni by surprise. Fox was Siren's subordinate and also someone who had come into contact with the mysterious chairman of Rongyao Company. Chapter 10-11. You're the director of the legendary Rongyao Company? My Ni widened her eyes at Yunjian in disbelief when she heard Fox's words, her pupils constricting. My Ni looked like a downtrodden beggar as she stared at Yunjian in disbelief and asked. My Ni did not even care about the excruciating pain from being hit by the teacup as she asked Yunjian with a terrified gaze. Fox, who was standing on the stairs not far away, glanced down at my Ni in disdain before snorting and speaking to my Ni on behalf of Yunjian. Sister Jian is the director of Rongyao Company, of course. Fox was different from Alluring Demon. Fox was an assassin from Kosha mercenaries and had only started working under Alluring Demon later on. Alluring Demon was the daughter of a bankrupt wealthy businessman whom Yunjian had rescued back then. Alluring Demon was not an assassin or a secret agent, but she had mastered some basic self-defense skills. Yunjian had saved Alluring Demon because she had taken a liking to Alluring Demon's business talent. Alluring Demon knew that Yunjian was slaying God. It was Yunjian who had rescued Alluring Demon when her family was in dire straits, so Alluring Demon was loyal to Yunjian. Moreover, Alluring Demon was in charge of Rongyao Company now, so her status in the international arena was extraordinary. Alluring Demon's skills could take down a bunch of ordinary people, but she was nothing compared to high-level assassins and secret agents. After all, Alluring Demon was only good at business. She was once the daughter of a wealthy businessman and had been pampered since she was young. As for self-defense skills, she had learned them later on. This was also the reason why Yunjian had sent Fox to assist Alluring Demon. Fox was from Kosha mercenaries, so his ability could take on at least 3 high-level secret agents. This allowed Fox to be ranked within the top 20 in the secret agent ranking. Since Fox came from Kosha mercenaries, he knew Yunjian's Kosha mercenaries and Yunjian's international status better than the witch. Therefore, Fox was not polite to my Ni. Although my Ni was the daughter of Hagi Company's chairman, if Hagi Company really wanted to fight with the Kosha mercenaries, the Kosha mercenaries could make Hagi Company disappear from this world forever. Fox's words shocked Mag and Mel even more. After that, my Ni remembered the tone in which the fox had spoken to her. Who the hell are you? You're just a dog following behind your master. How dare you speak to me in such a tone? Do you want to die? Yunjian was the chairman of Rongyao Company, so she shouldn't lose her dignity, so my Ni was a little scared. She didn't dare to be mad at Yunjian, so she turned to the fox. To my Ni, since Yunjian was the chairman, then she, Fox, was just a dog of Rongyao Company. How dare a subordinate be so arrogant to her? My Ni stopped talking. Mel saw this and immediately scolded his sister. My Ni pouted after being scolded by her brother. Just as she was about to continue speaking, she caught a glimpse of a fair and smooth hand reaching towards her. In the next second, a slap was heard. My Ni only felt that her cheek was hit hard and she was sent flying to the ground. When my Ni recovered from the pain, she just happened to see the owner of that jade hand standing in front of her. Chapter 10-12. Yun Jian walked closer to Mai and I as she spoke. Seeing his sister get slapped by Yun Jian, Mare was indifferent. That was because a demoness was blocking his way, preventing him from getting close. Yun Jian was already in front of Mai and I. She reached out and pinched my niece's chin. Suddenly she tightened her grip and spoke to Mai and I in a hair-raising tone. Or, you can replace Hagi Company and become history. How about that? The words, become history, were like a heavy hammer that slammed into my niece's heart. My niece's heart tightened. Mai and I felt an unprecedented fear. Reality proved that she was quite frightened by Yun Jian. Especially when Yun Jian was pinching her chin and speaking to Mai and I with a slight hesitation. Mai and I felt that she had never been so scared in her life. However, just when Mai and I felt that her chin was about to be crushed by Yun Jian suddenly let go. Take your sister and get out of here. Yun Jian kicked Mai and I. Then she turned her head. The young girl's beautiful face looked neither happy nor angry, but it made Mare's heart tremble. Mare had never seen a young girl like this. Yun Jian was the chairman of Rongyao Company. His Hagi Company's social status was higher than Yun Jian's Rongyao Company. If Yun Jian was an ordinary businesswoman, she would have probably rushed over to Hagi Company and asked for peace. But Yun Jian? What did she say? She said that she would make sure that Hagi Company would never see the light of tomorrow? Was this something that an underage girl would say? Alright, Mare admitted that Yun Jian was not an ordinary person. If Yun Jian was an ordinary person, then were there any geniuses in this world? Just as Mare thought of this, he was already holding his sister's hand. Mai and I had been spoiled since she was a child. Yun Jian's slap just now had completely stunned Mai and I. Mare had just helped his sister Mai and I to her feet, and was planning to leave this place first before coming back to find the demoness. Yun Jian's leisurely voice came from the back of his head again. Tell Matt that if he doesn't want to disappear in the long river of history, he'd better behave himself. If he dares to lay his hands on my Rongyao Company again, he'd better wash his neck and wait for death. Matt was Mare and my niece's father, and Matt was also the chairman of the Hagi Company. Mare had indeed used his status as the president to suppress Rongyao Company because of the siren, but it was just a superficial suppression. Yun Jian might be in Longmen City, but in reality, the slightest movement among the international bigwigs could not escape her eyes. Yun Jian was also well aware that the person who was stirring up trouble in Rongyao Company was not Mare, but his father, Matt. Matt's motive was obvious as well. He wanted to take over Rongyao Company for himself. Mare paused but left in a hurry with his sister Mai and I. Today was definitely the most pathetic day of Mare and my niece's lives. Watching Mare and Mai and I leave in a hurry, the few employees who were still working overtime in Rongyao Company were dumbfounded. Especially Yun Jian's arrogant words just now. Rongyao Company might be inferior to Hagi Company in terms of capital, but Yun Jian had asked Mare to pass the message to Hagi Company's chairman Matt with such arrogant words. If he dared to do anything else, he'd better wash his neck and wait for death. Chapter 10-13. It was not my niece's first time wreaking havoc in Rongyao Company. The last few times Mare and Mai and I came, Mare simply wanted to see a luring demon. Mai and I, on the other hand, was here to pick a fight. Therefore, when no one picked a fight with her, Mai and I came to the employees and humiliated them. Even so, the employees dared not make a sound. She was the daughter of Hagi Company's chairman after all. Who would dare to go against her? Unless they were not afraid of losing their jobs. Therefore, the few staff members present were usually very unwilling to see Mai and I. At the same time, they were extremely disgusted with her. They just did not say it out loud. In spite of it, they nearly ran over to clap and cheer when they saw how Yun Jian thrashed Mai and I just now. In spite of it, Yun Jian's domineering image was deeply imprinted in their minds. If anyone mentioned Rongyao Company's chairman next time, they would introduce him to them proudly, telling them how cool and amazing their chairman was. While the employees were still admiring Yun Jian was already walking on the main road of Maryland with a luring demon and fox. Haha, we finally got rid of that annoying mare and gave that little B***th Mai and I a good thrashing. Sister Jian, to thank you for your great feat just now, I'll treat both of you to supper. A luring demon patted Fox's shoulder and guffawed at Yun Jian. Let's go. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Then the three of them went to the busiest nightclub in Maryland and Country M. A luring demon ordered generously. When the dishes were served, a luring demon and Fox reported Rongyao Company's recent situation to Yun Jian. Yun Jian's eyes narrowed as she listened. It was 1 o'clock in the morning when they were done with supper. Gu Xian, Dan Tianxing, and the others had finished watching the race and rushed over after receiving Yunjian's call. During the 3-day Labor Day holiday, Guxian brought Yunjian to Country M to watch the race. After spending a night in a hotel in Maryland, Yunjian bought a plane ticket back to China the next day. Before she left, she also sent an invitation to Siren and Vixen, inviting them to attend the wedding of her mother, Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian on May 21st. At the same time, Yunjian also sent out a lot of invitations, using the name of kosher mercenaries to invite many international big shots to Qin Yiru's wedding. Of course, for now, everything was being done in secret. Yunjian returned to Longmen City alone. Guxian had already returned to school, so he sent Yunjian to the airport and watched Yunjian board the plane before leaving. Yunjian got off the plane at a place called Yiyang City near Longmen City. It was already noon when she got off the plane and took a car back to Longmen City. Just as she reached home, Yunjian saw a tall silhouette standing at the door. It had been a few days since she last saw Ce. When Yunjian saw Ce, she ran over with a smile. Like a teenage girl, her heart skipped a beat as she threw herself into Ce's arms. Qin Yiru was not at home. She must have gone to chat with Mrs. Yang. Just as Ce pulled the girl into his arms and was about to speak with his magnetic voice, he was interrupted by one of the 3 heads that popped down the stairs. Wow, Ce Gij is snatching a girl in broad daylight. Shame on you. Chapter 10:14. Xiao Yunju shook his head as he spoke, as if he was reciting an ancient poem. Xiao Yunju had already started his 1st grade, so he had a budding understanding of some things. Of course, Xiao Yunju did not know where to use the phrase, snatching a girl. It was only because he had learned these words in the past few days that Xiao Yunju was able to use them. Children were often the most innocent when they were not in school, but once they stayed in school for a long time, they would naturally understand some things. However, not long after Xiao Yunju spoke, the mischievous Duanli interrupted. No, that's not the right word. Duanli even cleared her throat as she spoke. She had completely turned into a little teacher and then said very seriously, it should be like this. In broad daylight, under the clear sky, Big Brother Ce hugged Big Sister Yunjian, who had just returned home and did something shameful. Xiao Yunju's words might not have caused such a big misunderstanding, but Duanli's words made people's imaginations run wild. Originally, when Yunjian had jumped into his arms, Ce had, of course, hugged her symbolically. How could he not hug the woman he loved when she jumped into his arms? But sure, Duanli's words. Did she mean that he was hugging Yunjian and doing something shameful? Xiao Yunju and Duanli were completely misled by the new words that the school teacher had taught them. Yunjian and Ce stood at the door, but they could clearly hear the conversation between 2 of the 3 little heads that poked their heads downstairs. Yunjian's cheeks immediately turned red. Ce's face also darkened. Being caught by Xiao Yunju and the other 2, Yunjian had a feeling that she would be teaching the children wrong things. Thus, just as she was about to squirm out of Ce's arms, she was pressed back down by Ce. You 3 come down. Ce didn't turn around. He maintained his position of hugging Yunjian as he spoke to the 3 little heads poking out from upstairs. Towards Xiao Yunju and the other 2, Ce had never spoken in an angry tone. Therefore, Xiao Yunju and the other 2 subconsciously believed that their big brother Ce had the best temper. He seemed to be having fun again. Children were very naughty. Xiao Yunju was also a boy. Of course, he was also naughty. Duanli also had a lively personality, so when she heard Ce's slightly gloomy voice, Xiao Yunju and the other 2 started to hide, as if they were about to be caught by Ce. They kept shouting with all their might, wow! Big Brother Ce is going to snatch the kids. Big Brother Ce is going to catch us. We're rocks that don't move. Big Brother Ce can't see us. Xiao Yunju was having so much fun that he was sweating profusely. However, Yunjian, who was standing downstairs, felt a little awkward. However, nestling in Ce's arms made her feel at ease. It was as if she had really returned home and didn't have to worry about anything else. Yunjian's lips curled into a smile as she hugged Ce with her arms wrapped around him, pressing her body tightly against him. Your mom went out. Adam and the others also went out. There's only the 2 of us at home and the 3 upstairs. When he mentioned the 3 upstairs, Ce recalled the scene just now and his face darkened. Okay. Yunjian nodded. Then she wanted to withdraw from Ce's arms. She said, it's already noon. You guys haven't eaten yet, right? Let's take Xiao Yunju and the other 2 out for lunch. Yunjian wanted to squirm out of Ce's arms, but Ce pressed her back into his arms. Adam's injuries have already recovered, Ce said again. Yunjian felt a little strange. Why was he so talkative today? In spite of it, Yun Jian did not see the smirk on Siyi's lips. The girl's front was pressed against him. A certain twin peaks were pressed tightly against his chest. He could even feel the girl's fullness through his thin clothes. Chapter 10:15. Yun Jian's face was pressed against Siyi's chest and her head was just touching Siyi's chin. If she didn't look up, she wouldn't be able to see Siyi's slightly curved lips. Although she was a little suspicious, she just pursed her lips and listened to Siyi's nonsense in the end. Yun Jian was still puzzled. Why was Siyi, who had never said a word of nonsense before, talking non-stop like a chatterbox today? Coincidentally, Yun Jian responded to Siyi again. Then she glanced at a clock not far away. She saw that the hour and minute hands were pointing at noon. She interrupted Siyi, who was still talking nonsense. Let's take Xiao Zhu and the rest for lunch. I'm a little hungry too. As she spoke, Yun Jian gently stroked her flat tummy. Siyi felt his heart overflow when he heard the girl's soft voice. He didn't even know when he agreed to Yun Jian's request. Okay. As soon as he finished speaking, he let go of Yun Jian's alluring body. Then he held Yun Jian's hand and walked upstairs. Xiao Yunzhu and the other two really thought that Siyi was going to play hide-and-seek with them. Their laughter spread to every corner of the villa. However, when it came to Siyi, he caught Xiao Yunzhu and the other two almost instantly and brought them downstairs as if they were chickens. Seeing that Xiao Yunzhu, Duanli and Duanya were sweating profusely from playing, Yun Jian even used a towel to wipe their sweat. Then Yun Jian held Duanli and Duanya's hands. Siyi extended his slender hand and let Xiao Yunzhu drag him away. Only then did the five of them leisurely walk towards the restaurant. Xiao Yunzhu, Duanli and Duanya each ordered their favorite dishes. Then Yun Jian ordered 4 more dishes. 7 dishes, 4 meat and 3 vegetables. Xiao Yunzhu, Duanli and Duanya ate until their faces were covered in gravy. Eat slowly, Yun Jian said softly as she scraped the rice stuck to Xiao Yunzhu's mouth. Xiao Yunzhu and the other two weren't wolfing down the food because they were hungry. They were competing to see who could eat faster and who could grab more food. Therefore they didn't even have time to talk. A child's pleasure was nothing more than these few points. Snatching food from their friends was the most delicious food. However, if it was really a world-class delicacy, no matter how delicious the food was, they would lose their appetite if they didn't have children to fight with. Because she knew from Ce that Qin Yiru and Mrs. Yang went shopping, Qin Yiru also knew that Ce was a responsible child. Therefore she was relieved to leave Xiao Yunzhu and the other two in Ce's care. Qin Yiru would probably come back at night. With this in mind, Yun Jian thought of taking Xiao Yunzhu and the other two out to play in the afternoon. Xiao Zhu, is there anywhere you want to go? Big sister and big brother Ce will take the 3 of you out to play in the afternoon, Yun Jian said with a smile as she rubbed Xiao Yunzhu and the other two's heads. At this moment, Yun Jian's smile was the most sincere. At this moment, the smile on her face was from the bottom of her heart. The amusement park. We're going to the amusement park that we went to last time. Xiao Yunzhu immediately said to Yun Jian. At the same time, he had a look of anticipation on his face. Chapter 10:16. Receiving Xiao Yunzhu and the rest's expectant gazes, Yun Jian pressed her lips together before she smiled and nodded. Okay. Yun Jian patted Xiao Yunzhu's head lightly and urged, hurry up and eat if you want to go to the amusement park. You won't get to play if you're late. Amusement parks usually closed at 8 or 9 in the evening. Longmen City's amusement park was especially new, so it had been operating later these few days. It would only start to chase customers away at about 10 in the evening. Yeah. Xiao Yunzhu yelled yay, thrice in excitement and swiftly dug into the rice in his bowl, stuffing it all into his stomach. Soon Yun Jian and Ce took Duanli, Duanya and Xiao Yunzhu's hands respectively and took the bus to Longmen City's new amusement park. In 1999, there were not as many amusement parks as there were now. Longmen City's amusement park was one of the earlier ones, so people from neighboring cities would come here for sightseeing. Hence there were more tourists here. Yun Jian and Ce had already brought Xiao Yunzhu and the rest here before, so they went in quickly after buying tickets. It was May Day, a long holiday for the students. Parents usually brought their children out for sightseeing. Moreover, children preferred places like amusement parks where children could play, so today the amusement park was full of tourists. Jie, we're going to play bumper cars. Xiao Yunzhu and the rest hugged each other excitedly as soon as they entered the amusement park. They even led the way to the bumper cars venue. The newly opened amusement park in Longmen City was more upscale, so they could play all the games inside as long as they bought a ticket at the entrance. However, they had to line up to enter the park in order to play the games. Xiao Yunju and the rest stood in line at the venue, holding Yun Jian and Si Yi's hands respectively. There were a lot of people lining up here just like a long dragon. Some people were even getting impatient from waiting. Duanli stood on the spot, her little hand held by Yun Jian as she looked around. At this time, a group of young boys and girls about the same age as Yun Jian jumped over the railing. Because there were a lot of people in the queue, sometimes there would be people who cut the queue when the staff wasn't paying attention. Not only did she cut the queue, but when the young boys and girls jumped over the railing, one of the girls stepped on Duanli's little foot fiercely. Duanli was still young and her feet were still tender. She was stepped on by one of the girls who jumped over the railing and cut in line. She immediately screamed, "Ah! It hurts." Yun Jian looked over and saw the girl who had climbed over the fence stepping on Duanli's foot. The girl even rolled her eyes at Duanli and muttered softly, "F***, annoying brat, get away from me." She then tried to catch up with the boys and girls who jumped over the railing and cut in line. Duanli's frail body contorted from the girl's stomp. She curled up on the ground, tears falling from her eyes from the pain. "Chestnut, what's wrong with you?" Xiao Yunju reacted the fastest, squeezing to Duanli to check where she was hurt. Seeing that the girl was about to leave, Yun Jian lowered her gaze. She suddenly grabbed the girl's wrist when she was about to move forward with the surrounding passengers. Chapter 10:17. Yun Jian saw Xiao Yunju slowly helping Duanli up from the ground, so she did not help Duanli right away. Instead, she caught the girl who stepped on Duanli and tried to escape. "Jia, it doesn't hurt." Duanli had been beaten since she was young, so when she saw Yun Jian tugging at the girl's shirt for her, she tugged at Yun Jian's clothes in fear. Duanli was afraid that Yun Jian would get into a conflict with someone else because of her. When Duanli was beaten up by her alcoholic father, there was once a neighbor auntie who came out to stop her. In the end, her father beat the kind neighbor auntie as well. Duanli was still young, but her experience was something that many people could not go through in their lifetime. Duanli was afraid that she would bring unnecessary trouble to Yun Jian because of her. She was afraid that Yun Jian would be harmed because of her. Due to her childhood, Duanli might look lively and playful on the outside, but deep down she was afraid of the world. No one could understand the loneliness and fear that lurked in her heart. Yun Jian lowered her head slightly. She could see that Duanli's face was pale from being stepped on by the girl just now. A child's feet were soft and tender, unable to withstand even the slightest injury. What was more, when the girl flipped over the railing just now, she had jumped down from the railing that was about half a meter high. Stepping on Duanli's foot from a height was like standing up and stomping on Duanli's foot. Not to mention that Duanli was just a child, even an adult would turn pale after being stomped on like that. When Duanli tugged at her clothes and said, "It doesn't hurt," Yun Jian felt something tugging at her heart. "F***, are you crazy? I didn't do anything to you. What right do you have to make me apologize for no reason?" The girl with curly hair looked like a gangster. It was nothing to be a gangster. Yun Jian was definitely the gangster among the students in Longmen City. She was now the boss of Jia Province's top mafia group. As a person, being in the underworld wasn't scary, but the scariest thing was that he didn't admit what he had done. Refusing to admit what he had done was probably something that many people had done before, so it wasn't unusual. But what was disgusting was that not only did this girl not admit it, her aggressive tone made her sound more reasonable. "Let go, let go, let go. If you don't let go, I'll call someone over to beat you up." Some people relied on the fact that they were gangsters and knew some ruffians in the society. Then they felt that they knew some invincible people and their tone was very arrogant. This girl was such a person. She glanced at Yun Jian contemptuously from the corner of her eyes and struggled desperately to shake off Yun Jian's hand that was grabbing her wrist. The surrounding people had all seen the scene just now. Everyone present felt that Yun Jian was right. "Little girl, we won't say anything about you cutting the queue just now, but it's a little unreasonable for you to not apologize after stepping on someone's sister, isn't it?" There was a tall and plump young man with a beer belly who stood at the front of the line. He saw what happened just now and spoke to the girl on Yun Jian's behalf. Before the young man could finish, however, the girl cut him off. "F***, fatty. It's none of your business." As she spoke, she turned back to look at Yun Jian. "Are you letting go or not? If you don't let go, I'll ask my friends to catch you and beat you up. Do you believe me?" Chapter 10:18. The girl was stunned. Just as she was about to speak, she was attracted by the voices of a few young men and women who were squeezing their way to the front. "Yang Kai-dai, what are you doing? Why aren't you coming over?" One of the boys, who was taller than the rest, bellowed when he saw the girl who was held back by Yunjian. Obviously this girl's name was Yang Kai-dai. Yang Kai-dai became even more frustrated after being yelled at by the boy. Her friends had already cut the queue and ran to the front, but she was being held back by Yunjian and could not catch up with her friends. Moreover, one bumper car could seat 2 people. Yang Kai-dai sat in the same car with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was a real hooligan. She was so anxious to catch up with him because she wanted to sit in the same bumper car as him. In the end, Yunjian wanted her to apologize. Yang Kai-dai thought that she was a person with a lot of self-respect, especially after she met her current boyfriend and made friends with many gangsters. She felt that she was very arrogant. Yang Kai-dai felt that it was impossible for her to apologize to Yunjian. Come over quickly. There's a B*TC here who wants me to apologize. Damn it. I haven't done anything to her yet. Yang Kai-dai was getting more and more frustrated as she was surrounded by people in the queue. She shouted at her friends who had already run to the front. Upon hearing Yang Kai-dai's shout, her friends who had already cut the queue all ran back. Yunjian was standing in front with Duan Li and Duan Ye, while Si was standing behind her. Although Si was tall, he deliberately bent his body and leaned slightly against Yunjian. That was why Yang Kai-dai did not see Si. At this moment, Yang Kai-dai's friends had already run back and jumped over the railing one by one. They surrounded Yunjian and the people in the queue as if they were going to fight. F***CK. Little girl, you look pretty. Are you trying to bully my girlfriend? Standing outside the railing, a hooligan-like boy raised his head and pointed his chin at Yunjian as he spoke arrogantly. This boy was obviously Yang Kai-dai's hooligan boyfriend. However, as soon as the boy appeared, he stared at Yunjian without blinking. That expression was very unusual. Seeing this, Si stood behind Yunjian and hugged her slender waist from behind. You're not going to apologize, are you? Yunjian's tone was cold. She narrowed her eyes, but the atmosphere around her had changed. Looking at Yunjian's cold expression, Yang Kai-dai's boyfriend felt an itch in his heart. Yunjian's current appearance was like a cold little beauty. At this moment, Yuhui felt a certain part of his body swell up. He even felt that his girlfriend, Yang Kai-dai, was tasteless. Hey little beauty, you seem to have quite a temper, Yuhui said as he looked at Yunjian with a sneaky smile. However, just as he finished speaking, Yunjian reached out and pulled Yang Kai-dai's body. Her other hand slapped Yang Kai-dai's cheek fiercely. Slap. Yunjian slapped Yang Kai-dai so hard that she leaned against the railing. Before Yang Kai-dai could explode, Yunjian stretched out her leg and stepped on Yang Kai-dai's foot. In the next second, Yang Kai-dai screamed like a pig being slaughtered. For a moment, she did not even have time to scold Yunjian. Yunjian stepped on Yang Kai-dai's foot with one foot. She stomped on Yang Kai-dai's foot fiercely as she tossed and turned. Chapter 10:19. She paused for a while. Looks like you're enjoying it, Yunjian added. She increased her strength and at the same time, her whole body was almost on top of Yang Kai-dai's feet. Yang Kai-dai was an adult, so of course she wouldn't be willing to be stepped on by Yunjian like this. She struggled with all her might, but Yunjian slapped her every time she struggled. This scene shocked everyone in the queue and at the same time, Yuhui and the rest were scared silly. No one expected Yunjian to be so ferocious. Most importantly, Yunjian looked thin and frail, but her current look was enough to make her look like a real woman. Not to mention whether Yang Kai-dai could beat Yunjian, Yang Kai-dai couldn't even reach out to touch the corner of Yunjian's clothes. Yunjian stepped on Yang Kai-dai's feet, and the weight of her whole body was exerted on Yang Kai-dai's feet. Yang Kai-dai's face instantly turned red, and she was in a state where she couldn't bear the pain anymore. Yuhui, hurry up and drag this damn woman out. Save me. Yang Kai-dai couldn't beat Yunjian, so she waved her arms wildly, trying to grab Yunjian's hair and tear it apart by force. However, Yunjian didn't let her do as she wished. Whenever Yang Kai-dai wanted to reach out, Yunjian would directly give her a fiery slap in this narrow space, causing Yang Kai-dai's whole body to twitch. Yuhui and his brothers were dumbfounded by what they saw. Don't girls usually like to pull hair when they fight? Why did it feel different when it came to Yunjian? When Yunjian hit Yang Kai-dai, Si protected Xiao Yunju, Duan Li and Duan Ye behind her, and at the same time, didn't let Xiao Yunju and the rest see this scene. F***CK, little beauty, what are you doing? Hurry up and let go of my girlfriend's hand, don't force me to hit you. Yuhui saw that his girlfriend was being bullied by Yunjian, and he wanted to do something, but he considered that Yunjian was a girl. Most importantly, Yunjian was much prettier than his girlfriend. Yuhui felt that he really liked Yunjian, and he felt that he wanted to dump his girlfriend and get to know Yunjian. However, if he didn't save his girlfriend, Yu Hui felt that he would leave a bad impression with Yunjian. If he didn't even save his girlfriend, Yu Hui subconsciously thought that he would leave a bad impression in the hearts of girls. Wanting to act like a man in front of Yunjian, Yu Hui went to Yunjian and extended his hand to stop Yunjian from stepping on his girlfriend's foot. Of course, Yu Hui wanted to touch Yunjian's soft and tender body when he pulled Yunjian away. Yunjian naturally felt Yu Hui's thoughts, and Ce, who was standing behind Yunjian, was naturally very sensitive to Yu Hui's actions as he was also a man. Just as Yu Hui was about to approach Yunjian, Ce, who was standing behind Yunjian, helped Xiao Yunju and the other two settle down. He didn't even bother holding onto the railing, he lifted his long leg and stepped on the railing with one foot, jumping over the railing from the long queue. That wasn't all. Ce lifted his leg quickly, and after he jumped over the railing he put both his hands into his trouser pockets, and without even using his hands he kicked Yu Hui, who was about to reach out to Yunjian. Yu Hui was sent flying by Ce's swift and fierce kick. With a loud bang he fell to the ground, and Yu Hui felt that his internal organs were about to be shattered. Chapter 10:20. Yu Hui clutched his internal organs. He felt as if his internal organs were about to be crushed by Ce's kick. This feeling was worse than death. Cough, cough, cough. Yu Hui clutched his chest and coughed violently. Jumping over the railing meant that they weren't in the queue. Amusement parks would usually set up a long queue railing. Outside the railing, there was a flat area where there was no need to queue. Yu Hui and his group had jumped over the railing to run back to help Yang Kai-dai just now. Ce had also jumped over the railing and kicked away Yu Hui, who wanted to touch Yunjian. Yunjian's eyes dimmed slightly before her lips curled up. At this moment she felt warmth in her heart. Because he was behind her. Slap. Thinking of Duan Li's feet that hadn't recovered yet, Yunjian gave Yang Kai-dai another slap. Duan Li was only a child to begin with. She was still young and was still growing. Places like the back of her feet were tender and tender to begin with. Even Yunjian's feet were soft and tender, let alone Duan Li. So when she thought of what Yang Kai-dai did to Duan Li and refused to apologize, she gave Yang Kai-dai a few more slaps without hesitation. In the end, Yunjian grabbed Yang Katie's hair and pulled Yang Katie's head in front of her. She didn't let go of Yang Katie's foot. "Are you going to apologize or not?" Yunjian said and gave Yang Kai-dai another slap. In fact, Yunjian was already very soft-hearted. According to her character in her previous life, Yang Kai-dai would have already been killed. But now that they were in the amusement park, she didn't want to cause a big commotion. However, to an ordinary person, Yunjian's action was quite shocking. If it was any other ordinary person, even if they saw their own people being stepped on by someone else and were rejected when they asked for an apology, they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Even if the other party was as confident as Yang Kai-dai, they could only give up. What else could they do? He could only admit that he was unlucky. After all, Yunjian had beaten, scolded, and even asked for an apology. If it were an ordinary person, who would dare to do that? Not only was this an action that could easily cause trouble, but more importantly, to hit a person in front of so many people, even an ordinary person would feel embarrassed. Especially for girls, they had to pay attention to their image. Who would be like Yunjian? Who would be so unscrupulous? Not to mention whether ordinary people could have the same strength as Yunjian. I apologize. Please let me go. Ouch, 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 it hurts. Yang Katie's hands were held by Yunjian as she pulled her hair over mercilessly. She was in so much pain that she broke out in cold sweat. How arrogant she was just now was how weak she was now. Yang Katie's entire body was trembling violently. At this moment, even the tourists standing around felt a trace of fear. How could such a young girl do things in such a cruel way? I didn't hear it. Just when everyone present thought that Yunjian would let go after hearing the apology, they heard Yunjian's cold voice again. The next moment, following Yunjian's cold voice was a crisp slap. Yunjian gave Yang Kai-dai another slap. At the same time she raised her voice and her tone was even more arrogant that couldn't be ignored. If you don't apologize to me, I will break your leg. Only then did Yang Kai-dai know fear and her whole body was trembling. At this moment, Yang Katie's heart was roaring. She is the devil. She is the devil. Chapter 10:21. She had clearly apologized. She had already apologized. But what did Yunjian say? She said she didn't hear it? Could it be that because she said it too lightly, Yunjian didn't mean it? Yang Kai-dai couldn't help but curse in her heart. How could there be such an unreasonable person in this world? Wasn't Yunjian lying to her? But Yang Kaidai forgot. While she was thinking about it, she seemed to have forgotten something. How did she treat Yunjian just now? How unreasonable was she when she didn't admit what she did to Duan Li? I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please let me go. Let me go. Yang Kaidai begged desperately. For a girl like Yang Kaidai, she was arrogant because she had a boyfriend. Yuhui was a gangster and knew quite a lot of gangsters. He often fought with others and even liked to call a group of friends who called themselves brothers. Whenever one of their buddies got into a little bit of trouble with someone else, this group of buddies would all come. Even if it was just a little bit of trouble, they would make it sound like a big deal. Then, a large group of people would band together to fight. Yuhui often did this kind of thing. Of course, this wasn't considered a gang fight. If one really had to talk about it, wasn't a guy like Yuhui just trying to find some sense of presence in front of girls? Gang fights after gang fights, what was it for? To run in front of girls to show off. But what about girls? Some girls had never been exposed to such things. Then, when they heard a guy like Yuhui exaggerating and saying that he was as powerful as Superman, they really thought that guys were omnipotent. However, girls like Yang Kaidai naturally fell in love with Yuhui. She was even tricked by Yuhui into thinking that Yuhui and this group of people were omnipotent. But in the end, if she really met someone like Yunjian without the help of her boyfriend Yuhui, Yang Kaidai would probably beg Yunjian to let her go. This time Yang Kaidai really screamed and begged Yunjian to let her go. She was afraid that Yunjian would say, "I didn't hear you again." When Yang Kaidai realized that her boyfriend wasn't as powerful as he said, Yang Kaidai could only beg Yunjian to let her go. Yunjian only smiled coldly. Then she swung her hand and let go of Yang Kaidai's hand. She didn't plan to continue to hit Yang Kaidai. After Yunjian let go of her hands and legs, Yang Kaidai felt like she was reborn. She was so scared that she crawled along the railing like she was avoiding the plague. Yuhui's legs kicks leg. As for the rest of them, they didn't dare to come up to Yunjian and see. In the end, Yang Kaidai's group didn't even bother with the bumper cars anymore. They all ran away like a puff of smoke. Yeah. Sister and Si Gij beat the bad guys. Xiao Yunju's cute little hands held onto Duan Li as he shouted. The surrounding crowd was shocked by Yunjian and Si Yi's skills. After that, Yunjian and Si Yi brought Xiao Yunju and the other two to line up as usual. Yunjian also carefully checked Duan Li's leg. Seeing that there was a black patch, Yunjian carried Duan Li. Although Duan Li's leg hurt, she didn't want to go home. Chapter 1022. Duan Li was carried by Yunjian. Duan Li was very light, as if she had no flesh on her body. Therefore Yunjian didn't feel tired at all. Duan Li had 2 ponytails today and looked very cute. When Yunjian carried her, the ponytails would gently touch Yunjian's skin. However, Yunjian didn't have any expression of disgust. Instead, she pursed her lips and smiled gently. Si Yi flipped over the railing and stood behind her. "Young lady, your boyfriend was so handsome just now." When Yang Kaidai stepped on Duan Li's foot and wanted to leave without apologizing, the surrounding people were all watching the show. Only this young man with a beer belly spoke up for Yunjian. Now that he saw Yunjian and Si Yi, this young man couldn't help but say to Yunjian. This young man with a beer belly was a typical fat man, and his body looked rather burly. He didn't have any other intentions, he just wanted to say something to Yunjian. Yunjian also admired people like him who were willing to help others when they met on the road. When the young man with a beer belly finished speaking, Yunjian nodded and smiled at him, but didn't say anything. Yunjian's smile was a tacit agreement to the young man with a beer belly. Si was her boyfriend. The young man with a beer belly seemed to have no one to talk to, so he looked at Duan Li, who was in Yunjian's arms, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju, who was being held by Si Yi. The young man with a beer belly couldn't help but ridicule them. "You guys look so young, especially you, young lady. I think you look like a 16 or 17-year-old girl. Haha, if I didn't see these 3 kids, I would have thought that you two were a couple from school." The beer-bellied young man obviously didn't believe that Xiao Yunju and the other 2 were Yunjian and Si Yi. Some people didn't look old. Although Yunjian and Si Yi looked young, the beer-bellied youth felt that they were old. Usually, when a young couple went on a date or went on a trip, it was impossible for them to bring their younger siblings along, right? If she were to bring her younger siblings along, their parents would have to come along as well, right? Although he couldn't believe it, the beer-bellied young man would rather think in another direction than think in this direction. Yunjian was stunned when she heard the beer-bellied young man's voice. She was about to say something when the young man interrupted her. However, Si Yi snatched the right to speak. It's not good to keep the child cooped up at home. You should take some time to bring the child out for a walk. This meant that he had tacitly agreed with the beer-bellied youth's words. The corners of Yunjian's mouth twitched. She wanted to explain again, but Ce hugged her slender waist and looked at her lovingly. He said, "Stop fooling around. Hold the child tight." Yunjian was speechless. She could even feel the naked gazes of the people around her. Ha ha ha. I can tell that you two have a good relationship. The beer-bellied youth believed Ce's words without a doubt. At the same time he changed from calling Yunjian and Ce a couple, to calling them husband and wife. Xiao Yunju and Duanli looked younger. Whether it was Xiao Yunju, Duanli or Duanya, they were thin and weak. They looked like kindergartners. In comparison, Xiao Yunju had grown taller and looked much better. However, he looked like he was 6 or 7 years old at most. If Yunjian and Ce looked older, then it wasn't too unbelievable that they had given birth to Xiao Yunju and the other two at an early age. The beer-bellied man smiled. Very good. Ce only revealed a charming smile. It was easy for Ce to say something that went against his conscience. Chapter 10:23. In the end, Ce actually started chatting with the beer-bellied young man. However, from the beginning to the end, Ce was flaunting his relationship with Yunjian. In Ce's own words, he couldn't wait for the whole world to know that Yunjian already belonged to him and only him. He absolutely wouldn't allow anyone to have any designs on Yunjian. The long line actually passed by very quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was Yunjian's turn. Because he still had Duanya with him, Ce didn't plan to play bumper cars like the other kids. A bumper car could only seat 2 people, so Yunjian and Duanya sat in the same car. Xiao Yunju and Duanli were already starting to understand things, so Yunjian didn't have to worry about them sitting in the same car. Ce stood by the side and watched as Yunjian, Xiao Yunju and Duanli sat in the same car. They were having a lot of fun. Seeing Yunjian pursing her lips and feeling happy from the bottom of her heart, Ce also felt happy. He stared at Yunjian the whole time. Even the middle-aged aunties in the line could feel the love in his eyes. Xiao Yunju and the other two loved to play bumper cars. Some of the dangerous games in the amusement park weren't suitable for Xiao Yunju and the other two, so Xiao Yunju and the other two dragged Yunjian along and immersed themselves in the bumper cars game for the whole afternoon. After playing once, they dragged Yunjian and Ce to line up for the second time. As a result, they didn't feel tired at all. When it was time for dinner, Yunjian and Ce brought Xiao Yunju and the other two to a restaurant in the amusement park to order dinner. The dishes in the amusement park were generally more expensive than those outside, but even so, Yunjian ordered a lot of dishes. During dinner, Yunjian sent a text message to Qin Yiru, telling her that she, Ce and Xiao Yunju would not be home for dinner tonight. Labor Day was a 3-day holiday. Today was supposed to be the last day of Labor Day, so there should be evening self-study at night. However, the weather forecast said that the weather would not be good on the last day of Labor Day, and it happened to be a holiday, so the evening self-study was cancelled. Of course, no one expected the weather to be so sunny today. In this era, it was common for the weather forecast to be wrong. "Jie, let's go boating after eating, okay?" Yunju asked Duanli and Duanya as he gobbled up the rice in his bowl. "Okay." Yunjian rubbed Xiao Yunju's head. She felt that her brother was getting cuter and cuter. After dinner, the sky had already darkened. Night quickly shrouded the sky and the amusement park was soon illuminated by neon lights. There were still many people playing in the amusement park. Of course, the boats by the creek were still sailing. It was just that the boats here were charged. Yunjian knew that as well. Ce had just paid for an hour's ride on the pedals. Yunjian was just about to step onto the boat with Xiao Yunju and the other two. However, at this moment, she unconsciously saw a familiar face not far away. The familiar person was graceful and elegant. She was holding a boy who was about the same age as Xiao Yunju. They were surrounded by a group of people as they walked over. When she saw the graceful and elegant woman, Yunjian's eyes immediately locked. How did she meet Guxian's biological mother, Huayun, here? Just as she was thinking this, Huayun also saw Yunjian. Chapter 10:24. The moment Huayun saw Yunjian, she was stunned. At this moment, Huayun was surrounded by more than 10 bodyguards. She looked like a typical rich person. Huayun was holding the hand of a boy who was about the same age as Xiao Yunju. It was not hard to tell that the boy was the child of Huayun and her current husband, Hu Chaochuan. Huayun's current husband was ugly. Therefore, even though Huayun was good-looking, the boy she was holding the hand of took after her current husband, Hu Chaochuan. He had a flat nose, a round face, and even his hair was a little bald. It had to be said that the boy was extremely ugly. However, he was dressed in branded clothes. It was obvious that he was a rich man's son. When Hua Yun saw Yun Jian and Ce with Xiao Yunju and the other two, she was stunned. Hua Yun remembered how Yun Jian had insulted her the last time. Last time, Yun Jian had called her a cheap woman. She had said that she and her current husband, Hu Chaochuan, were dogs and meows. Hua Yun had been waiting for the last time. When Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian got married, she wanted to go to the wedding and show off how sweet and beautiful her life was now. Especially now that her identity was different from before. Her husband's uncle was an international business tycoon. Even in the entire world, his status was extraordinary. There was no need to mention it. This was because Hua Yun believed that a person like Yun Jian would never be able to reach that level. Of course, her husband, Hu Chaochuan, was an example. Hu Chaochuan had followed his uncle and had become an international tycoon. For example, her husband was one of the investors of the amusement park today. That was why Hua Yun was here. It could be said that Hua Yun's son was on vacation these few days. Therefore, Hua Yun had been wandering around the amusement park with her son. As she was wandering around, she bumped into Yun Jian. Hua Yun thought that Yun Jian wouldn't come to the amusement park just to mock her, right? Therefore, Hua Yun held her son Hu Qixiang's hand and walked over with big steps. After all, Hua Yun was from a wealthy family. After marrying Hu Chaochuan, she felt that her husband was very powerful. Therefore, she valued her cultivation even more. Hua Yun walked over and looked down at Yun Jian. She was wearing a pair of high heels, so she looked much taller than Yun Jian. I can't believe you guys are here. Hua Yun spoke as if Yun Jian and the others were not supposed to be here. If you can come, why can't I? Yun Jian was not the kind of person who would run away. She looked straight at Hua Yun. Hua Yun was slightly taller than Yun Jian. Now that she was wearing high heels, it could be said that Hua Yun was looking down at Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian stood on the same spot. She did not look up at Hua Yun. Instead, she looked straight at Hua Yun, who was a few meters away. In terms of aura, even though Hua Yun's height was slightly taller than Yun Jian, who was wearing flat shoes, Yun Jian was stronger than Hua Yun in terms of aura and behavior. It was also because of this that Hua Yun hated Yun Jian even more. Because this is my house. Mom doesn't like you guys coming here. I don't like you guys coming here either. So, get out of my house. When Hua Yun wanted to say something, her son with a flat nose, Hu Qixiang, who was holding her hand, took the right to speak. As soon as Hu Qixiang spoke, Yun Jian felt it. He was a typical example of being spoiled by Hua Yun and Hu Chaochuan. Chapter 1025. Hu Qixiang had been instilled with the idea that his father was very powerful since he was young. Before he came to the amusement park, Hu Qixiang already knew that his father was one of the investors here. He was only one of the investors, but in Hu Qixiang's mind, this amusement park belonged to his father. Everything here belonged to his family. He could decide who could come and who could not. Even the people who bought tickets to enter could scram out of here if they made him unhappy. That was the idea that Hua Yun instilled in Hu Qixiang. Hua Yun thought the same way too. Although Hu Chaochuan was only one of the investors here, Hua Yun felt that everything here belonged to her family. With such thoughts in mind, Hua Yun often wandered around here when she had nothing to do. She felt that she was superior to everyone else as long as she stood here. This feeling drove Hua Yun crazy. Give it to me, Yun Jian only smiled contemptuously. She did not want to fight for anything. Instead, she reached out her hand to Hua Yun. What? Hua Yun was shocked by Yun Jian's action. She felt that her son, Hu Qixiang, was especially cool when he told Yun Jian to get out of here because this was her family's territory. He was indeed her son. He knew how to help his mother deal with bad people. Refund the tickets. It's the tickets for the 5 of us. Didn't you want us to leave? We were kicked out before we finished playing. Of course you have to give us a refund. Yun Jian did not care about other things. Instead, she reached out her hand and asked Hua Yun to give her a refund. Hua Yun was shocked by Yun Jian's action. Wasn't Yun Jian very domineering before? How come today? Why should I give you guys a refund? Hua Yun was infuriated by Yun Jian's bluff. Hua Yun did not lack Yun Jian's ticket money. In fact, the ticket money was nothing to Hua Yun. It was no different from the dust on the ground. However, if Hua Yun really refunded Yun Jian's ticket money on the spot, wouldn't it be very embarrassing? Because we bought tickets and we haven't had enough fun yet. If you want us to leave, of course we'll ask for a refund, Yun Jian said smoothly. But since you can't give us a refund, we can only continue with the game, Yun Jian continued without waiting for Hua Yun to speak. At this point Yun Jian called out to Xiao Yunju, Duanli and Duanya. Xiao Zhu, you three follow Ce Gij to the boat first. Ce didn't appear, but he was watching everything that was happening in front of him. He knew that there were some things that Yun Jian could solve by herself. If she couldn't solve it cleanly, then he would come and clean it up. Ce quickly grabbed Xiao Yunju and the other two as if they were chickens and entered the pedal boat. Ha Qishang, let's go. Hua Yun knew that she could not argue with Yun Jian. She gritted her teeth in anger, but after considering her appearance she dragged Hu Qishang away. Just you wait. It was going to be Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding soon. At that time Hua Yun would show Yun Jian how rich she was. Compared to her, Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru's family wealth was nothing. Hua Yun wanted to show off at Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru's wedding. She also wanted her ex-husband to see that the husband she found now was not only richer than him, but more importantly, he also knew how to dote on her. Chapter 1026. Just as they got on the boat, Yun Zhu and Duanli snatched the pedals with their tiny feet and stepped on them, having a great time. Ce's long legs were pressed against Xiao Yunju's. Just as he carried Xiao Yunju and the other two onto the boat, Yun Jian nimbly walked into the boat from the shore. Since Hua Yun had left on her own, Yun Jian naturally did not ask her to stay, nor did she say anything. Because it was not the right time yet, she would let Hua Yun be smug for a few more days. Yun Jian would never let anyone who belittled her mother off the hook. Reality had proven that Hua Yun had successfully angered her. As for the next step, she would make Hua Yun pay the price for angering her. Of course, Yun Jian planned to give Hua Yun a heavy blow while preparing a grand wedding for Qin Yiru. Just as Yun Jian thought of this, she had already stepped on the pedals and walked into the boat. The boat was not big and could only seat 4 people. They sat opposite each other in pairs. Xiao Yunju, Duanli and Duanli each took 3 seats. Xiao Yunju and Duanli sat opposite each other, while Duanya sat beside Ce. When Yun Jian walked in there were no more seats. Xiaoya, let me carry you. When Yun Jian saw this she planned to walk towards Duanya. She even reached out her hand as she spoke. When Yun Jian walked in she happened to pass by Ce. Just as she reached out her hand to carry Duanya to sit on her lap, Ce suddenly reached out and pulled Yun Jian over. When Yun Jian was scooped up by Ce like that, the force of his scooping was strong because she was standing in the corridor. It was as if he brought her over directly. Hence, when Yun Jian was pulled over she lost her balance and sat on Ce's lap. Yun Jian was suddenly pulled onto Ce's lap. Her butt was suddenly pressed against Ce. At that moment she could even feel a certain part of Ce's body expanding and pressing against her indescribable part. Yun Jian's face flushed red, especially when Xiao Yunju and the other two were still having fun and did not notice what was happening. It felt as if she was having an affair with Ce. Xiao Yunju and the other two were having fun stepping on the pedals and did not notice the shocking scene of Yun Jian sitting on Ce's lap. In front of the 3 children Yun Jian was blushing. She struggled but was held down by Ce. When Yun Jian struggled, a certain part of the girl's body was pressed against a certain part of his, rubbing left and right. Ce nearly could not hold himself back. Xiao Jian, don't move. Ce's fair and slender hand was placed on Yun Jian's beautiful thighs. Yun Jian was wearing a pair of shorts that ended just below her knees today. Due to the hot weather, her pants were thin. Ce's hand was on her thighs and a certain part of his body was pressed against her. Yun Jian felt like she had never encountered anything more exciting than today in her entire life. Especially when there were 3 little kids playing around them. When they got off the boat, Yun Jian's legs were still trembling. She admitted that she did not struggle when they were on the boat just now, but she dared not exert all her weight on Ce's thighs. Especially when her lower body was pressed against him. It was almost 7 in the evening when they got off the boat. Yun Jian planned to bring Xiao Yunju and the other 2 home. Just as they stepped out of the amusement park, Yun Jian saw that Ce had sent Immerse son to pick them up. Once they were in the car, Yun Jian saw Ce calling Snow Eagle. Chapter 1027. Once Ce was done, Snow Eagle did not know what was going on, but it had always obeyed Ce's orders. Ce hung up right after Shuang agreed. Yun Jian, who was in the car, narrowed her eyes, knowing that Ce was taking revenge for her. Destroying the amusement park's investors' shares was the same as destroying the new project that Hua Yun's husband's company had recently launched. It would at least cause Hua Yun's husband to lose a huge sum of money. It was not enough to ruin his reputation, but it would be enough to give him a headache in the near future. Immerse drove steadily. Xiao Yunju, Duanling Tian, and Duanling Tian seemed to be tired from playing in the car. The three of them seemed to have infected each other as they dozed off in the car at the same time. Yunjian knew that the three of them must be tired from playing today, so she let Ci help her to rest Xiao Yunju's head while she rested her head on Duanli and Duanyu's. When they got home, Yunjian moved Xiao Yunju, Duanling Tian, and Duanling Tian back to their respective bedrooms. Yunjian was exhausted after playing for the entire afternoon and night. It was only 8 o'clock when she got home. Although she had to wake up for school the next day, Yunjian was in no hurry to sleep. On the other hand, Huayun brought her son, Hu Qixiang, home in a huff and shoved her son to the nanny in exasperation. She was so infuriated by Yunjian that she did not even bother to look at her son as she stomped upstairs. Before Huayun entered her husband's study, she heard him talking to someone on his phone. Hu Chaochuan's tone was extreme. "What? Someone important is messing with us. Explain it to me. What do you mean the amusement park plan is going to be ruined? I've invested 1 billion yuan in Longmen City's amusement park. How can it be gone just like that? Find out who did it for me." After shouting his last words, Hu Chaochuan threw his phone away. From the ferocious expression on Hu Chaochuan's face, one could tell that he was in a very bad mood. In 1999, 1 billion was equivalent to half of Hu Chaochuan's family fortune. The project that he had just invested in was suddenly hacked. Moreover, this project had cost all of Hu Chaochuan's efforts. Hu Chaochuan's expression at this moment was simply uglier than if he had eaten dog shit. It was true that Huayun was a graceful and elegant woman. However, Huayun was not smart. Even though she could see that Hu Chaochuan's face was terrifyingly dark, she still wanted to approach him. "Hubby, what's wrong? Why were you so angry just now?" Huayun gently brought a fruit platter from downstairs and leaned over. Just as she walked over and placed the fruit platter in front of Hu Chaochuan pushed it away. The fruits in the fruit platter rolled to the ground and slid far away. "Scram! Did I tell you to come up?" On the surface, Hu Chaochuan appeared to be very gentle to Huayun. However, if he really encountered something difficult, he would simply treat Huayun as a punching bag. Huayun felt that the only thing she could brag about in this life was marrying a rich husband like Hu Chaochuan. Huayun wanted to pretend to be a very virtuous wife in front of Hu Chaochuan, so she went to Hu Chaochuan even after she was scolded. "Chaochuan, what's wrong with you? Is there something wrong with your business?" "It's all right, I'm here with you." Before Huayun could finish her sentence, Hu Chaochuan pushed her away. Hu Chaochuan, who had called Huayun baby in front of Yunjian before, did not even treat Huayun as a human when he was frustrated. Chapter 1028. As Hu Chaochuan spoke, he glared at Huayun. His behavior was a stark contrast to Hu Chaochuan, who called Huayun baby in front of outsiders. Even so, Huayun was not mad at all. Because Hu Chaochuan was her ATM. If she left Hu Chaochuan now, she was nothing. F***ck. Hu Chaochuan growled and slammed all the books on the desk onto the floor. With this slap, a few books hit Huayun's body. One of the books even hit Huayun's forehead hard, causing a big bump to form on the spot. Huayun clenched her teeth in pain, but she dared not utter a word in the end. The only thing she had left was Hu Chaochuan, because Hu Chaochuan's money was the only thing she could show off in front of outsiders. Therefore, Huayun could only endure Hu Chaochuan's violence at home and be an envied rich lady outside. This was Huayun's current living situation. The next day, Yunjian went to school as usual. Once the 3-day holiday of Labor Day was over, Yunjian's life returned to normal. The 3-day holiday of Labor Day could be considered Yunjian's last long break in junior high school. Once May was over, the senior high school entrance examination would begin in late June. What awaited everyone in the end was the yearning high school life. As for what kind of school they could get into and which school they would go to, it all depended on the senior high school entrance examination in late June. Jian, Sob, I'm getting moldy at home. I can finally go back to school and stay with you every day. I'm so excited. Just as Yunjian returned to school, Qin Sini pounced on her. Yunjian did not avoid her but allowed Qin Sini to hug her. Qin Sini was finally back to school after recuperating at home for so long. To be honest, Qin Sini was the person whom Yunjian and her friends were looking forward to the most in school. Initially, she thought that she would not be able to meet any other friends other than Lu Fian after leaving Xinjiang town, but she did not expect to meet Qin Sini. There was also Zhang Xiaofeng and the rest. Let go, it's time for class. Although she was a little emotional, Yunjian pressed her lips together and told Qin Sini nonchalantly. I see. I know you're excited too, Jian. Qin Sini hugged Yunjian's hand coquettishly. It was only when the morning bell rang that Chin Sini let go of Yunjian's hand. There was a night self-study session on Tuesday. It was 8 o'clock in the evening. In addition, Yunjian and the girls were about to take their high school entrance exams, so the evening self-study session was usually dragged to class by the respective subject teachers. In the end, it would even drag on for more than 10 minutes. By the time school was over, most of the day and boarding students from the other grades had already left. Zhang Xiaofeng still had to go to the field for some exercise after the evening self-study session, so Yunjian and Chin Sini walked out of the school gate first. The night breeze was rather chilly. Chin Sini stayed by Yunjian's side, holding Yunjian's hand as they turned a corner to go home. Just as they turned the corner, Yunjian felt that something was off. "Ha bros, it's this chick's boyfriend who kicked me hard at the amusement park yesterday." Yunjian recognized the leader of a group of people who were walking toward them at first glance. The leader was Yang Katie's boyfriend, Yu Hui, who refused to apologize for stepping on Duanli yesterday. Currently, Yu Hui was leading a group of more than 20 teenagers with Yang Kai-dai in his arms. There were also some teenagers who came to watch the show, surrounding Yunjian and Chin Sini. From the looks of it, it was obvious that Yu Hui and his men were here to cause trouble. Chapter 1029. Yu Hui was indeed here to cause trouble. After being kicked by Ce yesterday, he felt like his internal organs were about to be destroyed. To Yu Hui, he had never suffered such humiliation in his life. However, considering that Ce was too strong, he took his girlfriend, Yang Kai-dai, and ran away first. If he couldn't win, he would run away. This was Yu Hui's habit. Of course, he buried yesterday's incident in his heart. After being kicked so ruthlessly, how could Yu Hui let it go? Luckily, Yu Hui asked his brothers to investigate and finally found out that Yunjian was studying at Longmen Yizhong High School. Yu Hui was amazed at how powerful his influence was. He was actually able to find Yunjian's school in such a short period of time. At the same time, he didn't forget how Yunjian dealt with Yang Kai-dai yesterday. It seemed like this girl had some skills too. Hence, Yu Hui took advantage of the fact that Ce wasn't around today to bring his 20 brothers and planned to intercept Yunjian here. 20 people against one girl, he didn't believe that they would lose. Yu Hui's group of school hooligans, if they were bullied by anyone, even if it was just a little bit, they would make a big fuss out of it as if they were going to die. Today, Yu Hui brought 20 people to surround Yunjian and teach her a lesson. "Yo Yu Hui, I didn't expect these two girls to be so pretty." The group of 20 hooligans surrounded Yunjian and Chin Sini in a corner. One of them was dressed like a hooligan and had a yellow mohawk hairstyle. He sized up Yunjian and Chin Sini from the corner of his eyes. He looked as if he wanted to see Yunjian and Chin Sini naked. "Brother Haitian, it was this damned woman who framed me yesterday. She even slapped my beautiful face until it was swollen. You have to take revenge for your younger sister." Yang Kai-dai also stood up and covered her face as she spoke. Looking at Yang Katie's pitiful expression, it was as if she was really the victim. The brother Hai Tian that Yang Kai-dai mentioned was the young man with the yellow mohawk. The young man's name was Wang Haitian, and he was the most powerful one among the 20 or so punks. Yang Kai-dai also got to know this group of gangsters who she thought were very powerful because she was dating Yu Hui. It was also because of this group of people that Yang Kai-dai was so arrogant to the outside world. That was because she felt that she had a backer. "Hee, they actually dared to bully our little sister Kai-dai. Of course I will help you, teach them a lesson." Wang Haitian walked up to Yunjian and Chin Sini like a ruffian and sized them up with narrowed eyes. Not only were the 20 over brothers that Yu Hui had brought with him, there were also some people who came to watch the show after hearing that there was going to be a gang fight. The people around them were mostly students. However, when they saw Yunjian being surrounded by Wang Haitian, Yu Hui and the rest, they all shook their heads and sighed. It seemed like the two girls who were surrounded were done for today. The students around them were not from Yunjian's school, but from Wang Haitian and Yu Hui's school. Therefore, none of them knew that Yunjian was Team Monarch/God. At that moment, Wang Haitian was looking at Yunjian's voluptuous breasts with perverted eyes. So beautiful. There was actually such a beautiful girl in this world. "Little girl, are you scared? Hee, if you let me touch your breasts, I'll let you go. How about that?" Wang Haitian put forward such shameless words. As he spoke, he even whistled, pretending to be very domineering. "How do you want to die?" Chapter 1030. The people standing around had thought that Yunjian would beg for mercy, lose her face from fright, or hug Chin Sini in fright and cry out what to do. This was how a normal girl would react when faced with such a situation. But what about Yunjian? She didn't follow Wang Haitian's words. Instead, she asked Wang Haitian, "How do you want to die? Are you kidding me?" The current situation was that Yunjian was surrounded by Yu Hui, Wang Haitian, and the rest, and they were about to gang up on her. She was a girl, but not only was she not afraid, she even looked at Wang Haitian and the rest and said such words. Wasn't this asking for death? It was fine if Yunjian wasn't afraid, but why didn't the girl standing beside Yunjian have any sense of fear? Chen Sini was standing beside Yunjian, but just like Yunjian, she didn't show any signs of fear in front of Wang Haitian and the rest. "Ha, little girl, don't try to be brave. You won't die if I touch you. I'll touch you gently and I'll let you go after that. How about that?" Wang Haitian was mesmerized by Yunjian's beauty, and he didn't even have the intention to avenge Yu Hui and Yang Kai-dai. At this moment, his entire heart was on Yunjian. Such a beauty made him want to conquer her from the bottom of his heart. "Wang Haitian, I was the one who found this beauty. Why are you the only one who can touch her?" Yu Hui saw that Wang Haitian wanted to monopolize Yunjian and he panicked. He didn't even care about his own girlfriend and opened his mouth to say these words. Yu Hui's words made Yang Katie's eyes widen. "Yu Hui, you actually had this kind of idea? You even said that you're going to avenge me tonight. You don't, my baby. I'm torturing her because I want to avenge you." Yu Hui realized that he had said something wrong and he immediately changed his words. Although Yu Hui's explanation was rather far-fetched, Yang Kai-dai turned around unhappily and pouted her lips. After making an angry face, she didn't say anything else. It was only then that Yu Hui turned his attention back to Yunjian. Just as Yu Hui turned his head around, he suddenly heard the surrounding students exclaim in surprise. "Oh my god, this girl, she actually carries a knife with her." Yu Hui's attention was attracted by the noise. He turned around in surprise and saw Yunjian pulling out a butterfly knife from her pocket. With a swift flick of her hand, the butterfly knife was caught in Yunjian's palm. Seeing Yunjian's proficient posture with the knife, everyone present was slightly stunned. In the next second, they heard Yunjian's lips curl up. Her red lips moved up and down slightly, and the hand holding the butterfly knife tightened. Then she pointed the blade of the butterfly knife at Wang Haitian and the others. "Don't talk nonsense. You want to gang up on me, right? Get your weapons and come at me together. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you bunch of trash." The moment Yunjian whipped out the butterfly knife was enough to send chills down people's spines. After all, she was a girl, how could she carry a knife with her? However, when Yunjian finished speaking, the group of people led by Wang Haitian were dumbfounded. What did this girl say? She wanted all of them to come at her together? She even said that they were trash? Could it be that she wanted to fight with them all by herself? Was this a joke? Just her alone? Chapter 1031. Yunjian strode forward. She lifted one of her legs and kicked Wang Haitian's abdomen, who was looking at her wretchedly. Wang Haitian's eyes were fixed on Yunjian, and Yunjian's movements were swift and violent. In the next moment, Yunjian's leg had already kicked Wang Haitian's abdomen. Yunjian had no intention of going easy on this kick. At the same time, Yunjian waved the butterfly knife at Wang Haitian's chest twice. In the next moment, Wang Haitian was sent flying by Yunjian's kick. The moment Wang Haitian was sent flying, everyone turned their attention to him. They saw Wang Haitian fly a few meters away after being kicked in the abdomen by Yunjian. After Wang Haitian fell to the ground with a plop, everyone realized that Wang Haitian's clothes had been torn by Yunjian. Yunjian seemed to have put away the knife on purpose. The tip of the knife didn't hurt Wang Haitian's skin, but everyone saw Wang Haitian fall to the ground. The front of his clothes had been cut by the blade. Wang Haitian's clothes had been cut by the knife, forming a big X. Wang Haitian's clothes were cut into an X shape by the knife. This scene caused everyone present to panic and be stunned. But at the same time, when everyone thought of this, they didn't forget one thing. This X had been cut by Yunjian with the knife in her hand. This could also be seen from the side. Yunjian's knife skills were amazing. Just as everyone was thinking this, Yunjian had already taken a big step forward. Her jade-like legs on the ground suddenly jumped and she jumped into the air. Then she lifted her legs and kicked the chests of the two brothers standing behind Wang Haitian. Wang Haitian had just been sent flying. Everyone was dumbfounded. How could they care about anything else? However, at this moment, Yunjian lifted her leg and kicked the two brothers behind Wang Haitian. At the same time, she waved the butterfly knife, her hands and feet moving in a continuous stream. Following that, Yun Jian wandered among the 20-odd people Wang Haitian had brought with him. Wherever she went, a bunch of them collapsed. In less than half a minute, it was so fast that this group of people didn't even have time to react. The surrounding students who were watching the show saw Yun Jian ruthlessly kick the last one, Yu Hui. When Yu Hui was sent flying, Yun Jian's footsteps followed closely. She waited for Yu Hui to fall to the ground before she ruthlessly kicked Yu Hui's abdomen. Then the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand landed on Yu Hui's neck. When they recovered from their shock and turned to look at where Yun Jian had passed by, they saw that each of the hooligans who were sprawled on the floor had an X slashed across their chests. This X was so neat that it was as if it was perfectly carved out by a knife. All of this, without a doubt, hinted at how precise Yun Jian's knife skills were. She was so precise that she didn't seem like a middle school girl at all. In just half a minute, she kicked more than 20 people to the ground at the same time and drew a big X on the front of each of their clothes. This wasn't something an ordinary junior high school girl could do. At this moment, Yun Jian was stepping on Yu Hui's abdomen. The pressure was so great that Yu Hui couldn't breathe. She tilted her head slightly and raised her beautiful eyebrows. Then, she moved the knife closer to Yu Hui's neck and sneered, "Are you trying to deliver yourself to me so that I can kill you?" Her words were cold and her eyes carried a luster that no one dared to underestimate. At this moment, Wang Haitian, Yu Hui and the rest who were on the ground felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. Before they could even make a move, they were already subdued by Yun Jian. What kind of speed was this? Chapter 1032. Yun Jian's words shocked everyone present. Especially Yu Hui, who was being stepped on by Yun Jian. Although Yu Hui usually liked to act cool in front of girls, when he was being threatened with a knife and stepped on, he was scared out of his wits. Yu Hui swallowed a mouthful of saliva before he spoke in a trembling voice. "Please take the knife away. All of this is not my fault, it's Yang Kai-dai, she was the one who threatened me. If you want to kill, then kill her, it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me." Yu Hui was really scared. At the same time, he suddenly hated his girlfriend Yang Kai-dai, to the extreme for instigating all these things. If Yang Kai-dai didn't say that he would take revenge for her as a man, he wouldn't have brought his brothers here to look for Yun Jian. And he wouldn't have been held by Yun Jian with a knife. Yu Hui thought that with more than 20 of his brothers, how could they not be able to deal with Yun Jian? Unless she wasn't an ordinary person. She was an assassin in the movies, an agent. But he was wrong. He was ridiculously wrong. She actually managed to subdue all of them by herself. Yu Hui, you actually... As Yu Hui's girlfriend, Yang Katie's heart trembled when she heard such words from Yu Hui's mouth. At a critical moment, her boyfriend actually said, "It's not my fault, if you want to kill, then kill her." Yang Kai-dai couldn't breathe for a long time after hearing Yu Hui's heartless words. "Are you done?" Yun Jian raised her voice, raised her eyebrows and sneered. When Yun Jian shouted, Yu Hui was so scared that he immediately shut his mouth. Yun Jian smirked coldly and sneered at Yu Hui again. "No matter what, you brought so many people to surround me today, this is the truth, if I don't give you a gift in return, it would be rude." As Yun Jian spoke, she increased the force on her feet. Yu Hui, who was being stepped on by Yun Jian, almost spat out a mouthful of white foam. "What? I beg you, let me go." Yu Hui's eyes were only left with a pleading look. Only then did he realize Yun Jian's cruelty. Just as Yun Jian moved slightly, and the butterfly knife in her hand was getting closer and closer to Yu Hui's neck, no one dared to stop her. "Over there. Damn it. The people from other schools want to gang up on our Yun Jian, did they ask for our permission? Let's go, let's kill those people, how dare they bully Yun Jian?" A loud voice was heard, and not long after, Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhang Jian led a group of people and rushed over from the corner. This group of people was no doubt the students from Longmen First High School. When they heard that there was a gang fight and the target was Yun Jian, Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhang Jian led a group of students who idolized Yun Jian to the core and rushed over like headless flies. "Master." When Zhang Xiaofeng and the rest saw Yun Jian stepping on Yu Hui, and Wang Haitian and the rest who were kicked to the ground by Yun Jian getting up from the ground, he led a group of people and rushed towards Wang Haitian and the rest like a swarm of bees. Some of the boys from Longmen First High School who came to help Yun Jian had even picked up their backpacks and were ready to go home. When they heard that Team Monarch's slashing god was surrounded by a group of people, they threw their backpacks down and rushed over. How dare they touch their idol, they must have a death wish. Wang Haitian and the rest were dumbfounded. Were their eyes playing tricks on them? Yun Jian's popularity in Longmen First High School was so high? What? Just as Wang Haitian thought of this, one of them lifted Wang Haitian's head and punched him in the head. "How dare you gang up on Team Monarch slashing God, go to hell," the person said as he punched Wang Haitian. While being punched, Wang Haitian and the rest clearly heard a few words. Team Monarchs slashing God? Yunjian. Chapter 1033. When Wang Haitian and the rest heard that Yunjian was Team Monarch slashing God, their eyeballs nearly fell out of their sockets. Team Monarch slashing God. She was now a legend in Longmen City and even the entire Zhe province. Many of the boys in the school had even made slashing God their goal and idol. It was no exaggeration to say that slashing God was an existence that could be heard but not touched to Wang Haitian and the rest. When Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, and the rest of them nearly fainted from the shock when they heard that such a legendary figure was the same person who had taken down all 20 of them single-handedly just now. They were slashing God's fans too. The group that Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhang Jian had brought along were ready to go home after school, but once they heard that something had happened to Yunjian, all of them dropped their bags and ran over. They were even more aggressive now as they rushed up and subdued Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, Yang Kaidai, and the rest of the group. Yunjian's foot that was stepping on Yu Hui loosened as well. She narrowed her eyes and did not need to do anything in the end. Zhang Xiaofeng was Yunjian's junior brother, and this was a well-known fact in Longmen E Junior High. Therefore, with Zhang Xiaofeng commanding, none of the boys who came to help Yunjian were disgruntled. They rushed up one by one and pressed Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, and the rest to the ground with their advantage in numbers. "Humph, master, they wanted to gang up on you. Today I, your son-in-law, will kill these idiots for you." As Zhang Xiaofeng spoke, he gestured at Longmen E Junior High's classmates who came to help Yunjian. "Don't go soft. Give them a good beating. How dare they bully my master? They can forget about going back in peace." As Zhang Xiaofeng spoke, the boys from Longmen E Junior High responded loudly. Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, and the rest who were initially aggressive were now the ones begging for mercy. Yunjian raised a brow. Was she so popular in school now? The sight of Zhang Xiaofeng leading his classmates to help her made Yunjian feel like she was being protected. The feeling made Yunjian smile from the bottom of her heart. Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, Yang Kaidai, and the rest who had offended Yunjian, the slashing god of Team Monarch, scrambled away when they had the chance. How would they dare seek revenge? Yunjian was the slashing god of Team Monarch. Watching them run away, the boys from Longmen E Junior High School who came to help Yunjian beat up Wang Haitian cheered and ran to Yunjian to worship her. It was as if they were meeting their idols, and the extravagance was indescribable. Where is it? These little bastards actually dare to fight in front of me. At this time, a teacher on duty heard about the group fight here and ran over with a student who complained in an aggressive manner. When Teacher Zhou, who was on duty, saw the crowd surrounding Yunjian and could not contain their excitement, he rushed up with a stick and hit the male students of Longmen E Junior High School who admired Yunjian one by one, gritting his teeth in resentment. "You little brats. How dare you gang up on a female classmate?" As he said that, the teacher on duty angrily knocked on each of the boys' heads. The boys present felt extremely wronged. Teacher Zhou, who was almost 50 years old and had a strong sense of justice, was so angry that he could barely breathe. Chapter 1034. Teacher Zhou on duty was a very righteous little old man. He was not even 50 years old, but his hair was already white. In order to cover up his white hair, he even dyed his hair stylishly black. At this moment he was holding a small wooden stick in his hand. This wooden stick was originally broken off from the tree. When he came here he heard that a group of male students were fighting here. He was simply furious, so he broke off a branch from the tree and ran over here aggressively. Today was his shift, and they actually dared to fight in front of the school gate. This group of little bastards. None of them knew how powerful he was as a male tiger. That's right, this teacher on duty was the teaching director of Longmen First High School. His surname was Zhang, and Director Zhang was usually very fierce. He was a very fierce little old man. Moreover, he liked to go to extremes, so the students in school gave him a nickname, Male Tiger. It meant that once Director Zhang caught something, he would not let it go no matter what. He had to find out who was right and who was wrong. Just like the tiger, he would not let go of the prey that he had set his eyes on. Therefore the nickname Male Tiger was formed just like that. Director Zhang also knew that his classmates had given him this nickname. Not only was he not angry as long as his classmates did not make any mistakes, he would even joke about the nickname that his classmates gave him. It could be said that Director Zhang was a teacher who was strict and could take jokes. He was a teacher who could play and joke with his classmates. Although Director Zhang was quite scary when he was fierce, his classmates still liked him very much. There was one thing that was very admirable about Director Zhang, and that was that he felt that he should protect the vulnerable. In school, girls were also considered one of the vulnerable groups by Director Zhang. After all, it was a fact that girls' physical strength was not as good as boys. Hence, when he saw a large group of boys surrounding Yun Jian, Director Zhang concluded without thinking that this was the rhythm of a large group of boys wanting to bully a weak girl. Hence, Director Zhang was so angry that he casually broke a branch and rushed over to hit the boys one by one. The result? When he angrily hit all the boys, this girl actually said, "It's not their fault, I was the one who started the fight?" Really? She was the one who started the gang fight? Director Zhang was stunned on the spot. He looked at Yun Jian in a daze, holding the small wooden stick in his hand. He looked like he couldn't believe it. Getting into a gang fight would be punished by the school. Yun Jian knew that as well. What's more, Zhang Xiaofeng had brought this group of people because of him. Yun Jian, on the other hand, had always been protective of her shortcomings. If someone respected her, she would return the favor tenfold. This was her principle. Where is he? What if they didn't bully you? Then, that group of people, what about them? Director Zhang was not someone who could be easily fooled. He looked around and said to Yun Jian, "Little girl, if you get bullied by these guys, just tell me. I guarantee that they won't dare to bully you again." Director Zhang thought that Yun Jian was afraid of telling the truth because she was bullied by the boys around her, so he opened his mouth to speak. However, Director Zhang had just opened his mouth when Yun Jian interrupted him. "I chased them away." As she said that, Yun Jian's red lips curled up into a smile. At the same time, she gently swung the butterfly knife. This butterfly knife was smoothly closed by her and then placed into her trouser pocket. "What? Chased away by you?" Director Zhang obviously did not believe Yun Jian and was about to retort when Yun Jian interrupted him. Just as he was about to say something, the voice of the student who was watching the show but didn't participate in it came from the side. This student was obviously not from Longmen First High School. Chapter 1035. The words of the student who spoke reached Director Zhang's ears without any hindrance. Director Zhang's expression changed from disbelief to shock and horror. What did the student just say? This girl, Yun Jian, whom he thought was being bullied by the boys, defeated more than 20 boys all by herself? How could such a miraculous thing happen to a female student? Director Zhang was completely stunned. However, at that moment, after the student who was watching the show spoke, another student followed suit. Haha, how could that group of people be her match? Didn't they say she's Team Monarch slashing God? She's the slashing god. Even if there were a few hundred of them, they still wouldn't be a match for her, let alone those 20 or so people from before. She's from the military. It was already shocking enough for Director Zhang, but after the student who followed suit, Director Zhang was even more terrified. What? The Team Monarch slashing god, who was the talk of the town recently, was actually the girl whom he thought was being bullied? Director Zhang was a genuine old urchin. He had heard of Team Monarch slashing God before, but he did not know that she was in their school. Although the incident was spreading like wildfire in Longmen First High School, Director Zhang was unaware of it. Yun Jian curled her lips slightly. She was not afraid of being punished at all. She merely raised a brow and looked at Director Zhang. So, this incident has nothing to do with them. Yun Jian seized the opportunity to speak again. When Yun Jian said that, the boys present were very touched. Could it be that Yun Jian wanted to shoulder all the responsibility alone? Although Yun Jian was the cause of the incident, everyone did make a move in the end. If they were caught in a gang fight by the teachers, they would be severely punished. So, can we disperse now? Yun Jian's red lips curled up slightly as she spoke to Director Zhang again. As she spoke, her eyes flashed with a different color when she looked at Director Zhang. In 1999, there were not many cases of girls fighting. Girls in this era were very reserved, especially when it came to fighting with boys. Even in the current era, such cases were rare. Director Zhang had been a director for so many years and had never encountered such an incident. The corners of Director Zhang's mouth twitched. Because of the shock just now and the fact that he was a little confused at the moment, he paused for a moment and then said in a daze, "Huh? Alright. Let's disperse. At that moment, Yun Jian's eyes were sizing up Director Zhang. No one noticed that Yun Jian was looking at Director Zhang and even hypnotizing him. At that moment, hypnotism was the most effective. Looking at the dazed Director Zhang, everyone present was a little stunned. What? Based on Director Zhang's personality as the male tiger, shouldn't he fly into a rage and ask Yun Jian which class she was from? Shouldn't he be giving her marks at the registration counter? When Yun Jian heard that, she smirked and turned sideways. Just as she was about to wave Qin Sini, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Zhang Jian to leave with her, Director Zhang interrupted her. That classmate. Director Zhang spoke again. The students who were dumbfounded earlier had goosebumps all over again. What? Was Director Zhang going to settle scores with Yun Jian again? Classmate, be careful on your way home, okay? Unexpectedly, Director Zhang did not mention any punishment at all. The people standing around were all dumbfounded. Director Zhang had always been an impartial person. Why did he not punish Yun Jian today? He just let Yun Jian go. In the end, the students could not figure it out. Hence, they unanimously concluded that it was because Yun Jian was Team Monarch/ing God. Chapter 1036. At this moment, Yun Jian had already left with Zhang Xiaofeng and the others. Everyone was left standing in their original positions. Yun Jian had just left with Zhang Xiaofeng, Qin Sini, and Zhang Jian. They were walking on the side of a busy road. Zhang Xiaofeng couldn't wait to ask Yun Jian excitedly, "Master, did you just use hypnotism?" Zhang Xiaofeng actually saw through it. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes, but she wasn't surprised. Back then, Yun Jian had used hypnotism in front of Zhang Xiaofeng, Qin Sini, and Ling Yichen. Later on, Lu Haozi even discovered it. At that time, Zhang Xiaofeng and Qin Sini didn't ask her what was going on, but Yun Jian could feel that Zhang Xiaofeng and Qin Sini were actually very interested in this matter. Yun Jian didn't intend to hide it from Zhang Xiaofeng. She tilted her head slightly and glanced at Zhang Xiaofeng, then nodded. She had indeed used hypnosis on Director Zhang just now to make him muddle-headed and forget that he had been in a group fight with others. After all, what happened just now wasn't her fault. It was Wang Haitian and Yu Hui who brought people to find her. Yun Jian didn't want the school to make it seem like a big deal because of what happened just now. She didn't want to be criticized and punished in front of the entire school. She wasn't afraid of being punished, but she simply didn't want trouble. Grandmaster, you actually know the legendary hypnotism. Although Zhang Jian was chubby and strong, he reacted quickly. When he spoke, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Zhang Jian didn't know that Yun Jian knew hypnotism. "You brat, my master knows a lot of things. You're making a big fuss. Embarrassing." Zhang Xiaofeng rebuked Zhang Jian, then chuckled. Zhang Xiaofeng didn't beg Yun Jian to teach him hypnotism because he knew that Yun Jian would teach him everything she could. Of course, she knew what she couldn't teach or couldn't teach. It was because of Zhang Xiaofeng's personality that Yun Jian made an exception to accept him as her disciple. Finally, they parted ways at the intersection. Time passed in the blink of an eye. After May Day, Yun Jian returned to her normal life. The beginning of May passed, Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding day. On May 21, 1999, Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding. Although it was Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's second marriage, it was the first time they felt the excitement before their wedding. In the past, no matter if it was when Qin Yiru and Yun Gang were forced to marry, or when Gu Junjian was forced to marry Hua Yun, they didn't feel this way. At that time, they felt as if someone who had nothing to do with them had gotten married. However, a few days before the wedding, Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian were extremely nervous. Seeing that the wedding day was approaching, Gu Junjian had already booked a hotel. The wedding would be held at the hotel. On May 18, 1999. There were 3 days before the wedding. Qin Yiru was staying at home. Every day felt like a year. On one hand, she was looking forward to her wedding with Gu Junjian because she knew that Gu Junjian was sincere to her. On the other hand, she was a little scared. After a failed marriage, all women would have the same fear of marriage as Qin Yiru. Even if they hadn't experienced their second marriage, many women would have the same fear before marriage. They were afraid that the man would treat them badly. These days, Yun Jian asked for leave and stayed at home to accompany Qin Yiru. Chapter 1037. Xiao Jian, there are still 3 days before the wedding. My heart can't stop pounding. I wonder if the days ahead will be comfortable after marrying your Uncle Gu. Qin Yiru held Yun Jian's hand as her heart raced. Normal women generally had a slight premarital phobia, but some people didn't show it so obviously. Before the wedding, most people would have some concerns and more or less felt a sense of fear from the bottom of their hearts. In serious cases, they would even start to dread getting married. Qin Yiru had experienced a failed marriage, so it was normal for her to have such thoughts now. Mom, Uncle Gu is sincere to you. You don't have to worry about anything now. What you should do the most is to have a good sleep. I'll take care of everything else. Yunjian patted Qinyiru's palm comfortingly and pressed her lips into a faint smile. I've sent out all the invitations. Mom, rest well now and wait for the 21st of May to put on your beautiful wedding gown. Yunjian had settled everything. Hearing Yunjian's words, Qinyiru's uneasiness calmed down instantly. Yuru, Officer Gu is a good man. Trust my judgment. Dong Ruan, who had heard Qinyiru and Yunjian's conversation, walked in from the door. Dong Ruan was a high-ranking official and was busy with work. Due to Qinyiru's impending wedding, she had put aside everything she was busy with and applied for a week's leave, planning to accompany Qinyiru through the wedding. When Qinyiru had dropped out of high school, she could not do anything for Qinyiru. Now that Qinyiru had finally found her happiness as a friend, she should stay by her side. It was not too late to make up for what she did not have the chance to do in the past. This time, she wanted her best friend, who had accompanied her since she was a teenager to her middle age, to get married in a grand manner. However, why was her Yiru getting married again? She was not marrying a bastard like Yin Gang either. She could not bear to part with her. Dong Ruan swallowed the jealousy in her heart and walked over to hug Qinyiru. Yiru, if you dare to be unhappy, I promise I'll break Gu Yunjian's legs. After decades, Dong Ruan finally expressed her thoughts. Although her words were a little extreme, Qinyiru knew that Dong Ruan would not really break Gu Yunjian's legs. She was just trying to make herself happy in another way. Even if the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked, there would always be such a person behind you, silently protecting you. She is not your relative, nor is she your biological parent, but she cares for you from the bottom of her heart. They had been good sisters for decades and had been friends for a lifetime. This was a friendship that could be brought to the grave. Looking at Dong Ruan and Qinyiru, Yunjian smiled as well. It was then that Yunjian's phone rang. A call at this time was simply ruining the atmosphere. Yunjian hung up the call and walked out of the house. On her way out, she closed the door behind her. Then she took out her phone again and dialed the number. When she called back, Yunjian was already walking down the stairs in her flats. When she was halfway down the stairs, the call was picked up. Sister Jian, it's Diane. We're in Longmen City. Where are you? The voice of Diane, the leader of the Kosha mercenaries intelligence team, came from the other end of the phone. Chapter 1038. Yunjian had sent out quite a number of invitations in the name of Kosha mercenaries. With Gu Sha mercenaries' identity, how could these people not come when they had sent out invitations to influential figures in the world? Kosha mercenaries. Kosha mercenaries were an existence that could stand shoulder to shoulder with an Hun group. Sending out invitations in the name of Kosha mercenaries to influential figures in the world was not a question of whether they would come. Even if they were not invited, the influential figures in the world would rush to Longmen City at the speed of a rocket when they heard about it. If someone were to ask around, they would know that the large hotels and five-star hotels in Longmen City were fully booked. Generally, those who were qualified to stay in a five-star hotel were usually the rich and wealthy. The average citizen did not have the financial ability or the need to choose to stay in expensive five-star hotels. Therefore, five-star hotels would usually have leftover rooms. These days, however, these five-star hotels were not only fully booked but there were also many foreigners. Yunjian was well aware of this. There were already people who rushed to Longmen City in case she was late for the invitation she sent out. It was the first time Dai Annie and the others had come to Longmen City, so when Yunjian received the call, she went back to her room to change into a clean white shirt and slim-fit pants before she went out. Ce was coming back from an Hun group the next day. Ce planned to take a long break after she was done with her work in the organization. Yunjian had Dai Annie and the others go to Longmen City's East Bus Terminal while she took the bus there. Dai Annie and the others had rushed over from the headquarters of Kosha mercenaries by bus as well. When Yunjian saw Dai Annie and the others, they were still standing at Longmen City's East Bus Terminal. There were only 3 of them on this trip. The one who stood at the front was a woman in her 20s with long black hair. She was beautiful and delicate. She was Diane. Diane was a ZY mixed blood. She had a head of beautiful black hair and a pair of gray eyes. She was very delicate and beautiful. The moment they saw Yunjian, Diane and the other 2 girls ran over. Standing at the front, Diane was the first to give Yunjian a big hug. Sister Jian. Kosha mercenaries was divided into many departments and 3 of them were the most important. These 3 departments were the intelligence team, the assassination team, and the investigation team. Diane was the head of the intelligence team. As for the woman and man beside Dai Annie, they were the assassination team's leader, Gui Yen, and the investigation team leader, Gui Lian. The leader of the assassination team, Gui Yen, was a woman, while the leader of the investigation team, Gui Lian, was a man. Dai Annie, Gui Yen, and Gui Lian were the leaders of Kosha Mercenaries' intelligence team, assassination team, and investigation team respectively. They were one of the important high-ranking members in the hierarchy of Kosha Mercenaries. Back in Kosha Mercenaries, Gui Yen and Gui Lian had met Yun Jian as well, so both of them greeted Yun Jian as Sister Jian. Right, Sister Jian, Elder Snake. Lizard and the others will only arrive in Longmen City in 2 days, Dai Annie told Yun Jian as she recalled Snake. Lizard's instruction. Yun Jian pressed her lips together before curling her lips into a smile and said after a beat, I know. Yunju's sister? At this moment, a surprised voice was heard. Yun Jian raised a brow when she heard the voice. Just as she turned around, she saw Miss Lu, who had just alighted from a city bus and was greeting her. Miss Lu was Xiao Yunju's homeroom teacher in school and the one who had slandered Xiao Yunju back then. Chapter 1039. Yun Jian's stunning performance at Xiao Yunju's school had been witnessed by Miss Lu, as well as Xiao Yunju's classmates and parents. During the sports meet at Xiao Yunju's school, Yun Jian had killed an assassin on the spot and the news had spread like wildfire. However, that was not the main point. The most shocking thing was Yun Jian's identity. She was an advanced special forces soldier in the military. She was Team Monarch/God. An ordinary person, especially an underage girl, had actually killed someone. Miss Lu should have stayed away from her when she found out. Miss Lu should have been scared to death when she saw Yun Jian, or she might even request the school to expel Xiao Yunju, because his sister was a murderer. However, that was not the case. With the identity of an advanced special forces soldier and Team Monarch/God, not only was Miss Lu not afraid of Yun Jian, she even thought that Yun Jian was the embodiment of justice. Therefore, Miss Lu walked over with a smile on her face. Sister Yunju, I didn't expect to see you here. What? Are you here to take the bus from East Station too? Miss Lu walked over with a smile. Her face was full of smiles as she walked over. She could not hide the flattery written all over her face. Whether it was the first time she saw Yun Jian or Xiao Yunju at the sports meet, Miss Lu had always treated Xiao Yunju and Yun Jian with disdain. The reason was simple. Miss Lu had always thought that Xiao Yunju came from a poor family. Therefore, Miss Lu had no patience for Xiao Yunju. However, it was different this time. After knowing that Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier, especially knowing that Yun Jian was Team Monarch/God, Miss Lu's attitude towards Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju changed instantly. Yun Jian was already an advanced special forces soldier at such a young age. From this, it could be deduced that Yun Jian's future was definitely not something an ordinary person could compare with. Therefore, when Teacher Lu saw Yun Jian, she called out to her in order to get close to her. Yun Jian did not have a good impression of Xiao Yunju's homeroom teacher, Teacher Lu. She only glanced at Teacher Lu from the corner of her eyes and replied coldly, "Yes, I'm here to pick up my friend." She didn't want to say anything else. "So you're here to pick up friends?" Teacher Lu glanced at Dai Annie, Gui Yen, and Gui Lian before nodding in satisfaction. Seeing that Yun Jian was about to leave, Teacher Lu immediately came up to her and stopped her. "By the way, Sister Yunju has been doing well in school recently. If she keeps it up, it won't be a problem for her to be a good student this semester." Teacher Lu knew that parents all hoped that their children would be able to get the 3 Good Student Award. Hence, in order to get closer to Yun Jian, she used all her trump cards. Her words were filled with the intention of getting close to her. Teacher Lu was the classic, "I don't care if you're down and out, but if you're rich, let's be good friends" kind of person. However, what Teacher Lu did not know was that Yun Jian did not like flattery, nor did she like these fake things. It's all talk and no substance. "I don't want my brother to get a fake piece of paper. Thank you." Yun Jian glanced at Teacher Lu. With that, she turned to call Dai Annie and the rest to leave. Yun Jian's words stunned Teacher Lu. Chapter 1040. Although Yun Jian was Xiao Yunju's sister, she could also be considered as half of Xiao Yunju's parent. The school had a database that registered the students' families. Back then, Teacher Lu saw that Xiao Yunju was adopted by Yun Jian's family, so she looked down on Xiao Yunju. Looking at Yun Jian, she was also dressed plainly. She didn't look like a rich person at all. Teacher Lu saw this, so she didn't pay much attention to Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju in the beginning. She even thought of Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju in her heart, If you don't have money, why are you pretending? What's there to be proud of? But when she found out about Yunjian's identity, Teacher Lu's attitude completely changed. In order to curry favor with Yunjian, Teacher Lu even wanted to give Xiao Yunju a certificate for the 3 best student awards at the end of the semester in exchange. Unfortunately, Yunjian didn't fall for this trick at all. And Yunjian's words just now were also accusing her of being a hypocrite. Teacher Lu had met parents who rejected her good intentions before, but she had never met someone like Yunjian. She actually said that she was hypocritical in a roundabout way when she rejected her. But when she saw that Yunjian was about to leave with Diane and the other 2, Teacher Lu panicked and hurriedly shouted, "Sister Yunju, I heard from Yunju that he's going to take leave next Monday, right?" Teacher Lu's shout attracted Yunjian's attention back. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and turned around. Then she looked at Teacher Lu in the eye for the first time and said, "Yes." Seeing that Yunjian's attention was finally back, Teacher Lu put in more effort to say, "A student needs a parent's signature to apply for leave, but since we've met today, this can be waived." Today was Friday. In the morning, Xiao Yunju went to Teacher Lu to ask for a day off. As Qin Yiru's wedding was next Monday, Xiao Yunju had to ask for a day off. It was almost noon. Teacher Lu didn't have any classes in the morning, so she left the school and took the city bus to the nearby market to buy some groceries. She planned to go back to school after she was done. He cooked lunch in the teacher's dormitory. However, he didn't expect to bump into Yunjian. Teacher Lu thought, "This is fate." It was another line of flattery. Yunjian chuckled coldly. "Thank you, teacher." Yunjian's face was calm. Her calm expression touched Teacher Lu's heart. "If there's nothing important, I'll leave first. I'm in a hurry." Yunjian randomly spouted some nonsense and then turned around. Diane and the other 2 naturally followed behind Yunjian like 3 bodyguards. Teacher Lu was surprised when she saw this scene. However, when she saw that Yunjian was really about to leave, she hurriedly called out to her. "Sister Yunjian, is your mother getting married next Monday?" When a student asked for leave from a teacher, they had to give a reason. Otherwise, the teacher wouldn't agree. The teacher would even use a superior tone to curse the student for doing anything to play truant. Therefore, Xiao Yunju had developed a habit of asking for leave from Teacher Lu. After asking for leave, he would immediately give the reason so that the teacher wouldn't mistakenly think that he was asking for leave to play truant. Yes. Yunjian didn't turn around this time. She turned sideways and looked at Teacher Lu from the corner of her eyes. "Oh, I see. Coincidentally, I don't have classes next week. Sister Yunju, do you mind if I attend the wedding together?" Teacher Lu asked shamelessly. "You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."